Right. The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Tuesday, May 26th, 2020 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone stay seated while Alderwoman Finlayson gives us the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I come to you this evening and ask you to bow your heads as we give thanks for our city. I come to you, dear Lord, thanking you for the gifts that you've bestowed upon us. Our prayers must go out this evening and every evening for those in our community who have lost loved ones, lost family, friends, lost their economic ability to survive. Help us as a city, dear Lord, to help them, to not just pass laws that are suitable for some, but that are suitable for all. Help us to put things in place outside of our laws that will let us shore up our residents, shore up our communities, and give all of us strength to do better. Today, Lord, after watching the news, I have to pray for particularly African-American men, our fathers, our sons, our brothers, who walk this earth every day not knowing what their fate may be. Let's give our prayers and our continued support for everyone in our community, regardless of race, socioeconomic ability. Let's feel for all of our community. Lord, I ask you to give all of us sitting here the wisdom, the justice, the good counsel, the fortitude, and the strength to make our community a healthy one. These words I ask in your name. Amen.
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 I pledge
allegiance
To the flag
of the United States
of the United States of America
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Here.
Alderman Payon?
Testing.
here.
Alderwoman Pendle-Charles?
Here.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Present.
Can't see him. Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
No.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the first on the agenda.
He didn't know that.
No Mike Lyles? Take a brief pause here on the City Attorney, please.
I'll read it. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Should we need the City Attorney though, I think, Regina? No. Alderman Arnett?
I move approval of the agenda.
I'll second.
Are you okay? Do we need the City Attorney for that, Regina?
No, but you have some amendments to the agenda. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware.
Okay. So this time I entertain a motion to approve the agenda and add a report from the Recovery Task Force and Resolution R 3020, Youth Violence, on first reader. Can I get a first for that? Someone
So
move that,
moved.
please. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Buckley?
Yes?
Alderman Pendle-Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez? Can't see him. Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and Mr. City Attorney has popped up. How you doing, Mike Lyles?
Oh, it was rough there, sir. Rough there. Trying to get it worked out here. Okay, I'm doing good. Okay, I'm ready to go.
Okay, and then you would have Dick Franyo up first, I think.
Let me see. No, I don't have. I have. Let me see. We approved. Have you approved the agenda yet?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is report from Recovery Task Force. Sorry about that, Mr.
No worries.
Franyo.
So I was going to just do a quick report and then hand it over to Dick Franyo. So good evening. I want to highlight some of the City of Annapolis's work towards moving our economy forward in the midst of this terrible, trying pandemic. I know this is difficult. There is probably no elected official who knows this more acutely than someone who came to the job of mayor from running a business. Before I was mayor of this amazing city, my business partners and I survived the economic downturn of 2007 and 2008. That was painful. Many of our fellow business owners weren't able to hold on through that crisis. This is exponentially worse. As elected leaders, it is our job to find a balance between maintaining the public health and helping businesses survive. We share the health department and a chief health officer with County Director, Dr. Nilesh Kalyanaraman. He has been available to us from the start. He has helped with testing, information, and guidance for the city staff and decision makers. That has helped us stay together in decisions making with the county 99% of the time. We veered away a little on retail to confirm with what phase 1 of reopening guidelines in a way that works for our very different small business retail community. Right now, we hear from many people in our community who would like to see the lockdown continue. On the other side are people who want everything reopened
He's
immediately.
going to speak after the mayor has finished.
Neither of these positions is tenable. We are trying to find a balance. If we err too far on the side of public health, we risk thousands of businesses permanently going under and the Annapolis economy unable to restart when that time arrives. If we err too aggressively on the side of restarting commerce, we risk an even greater public health catastrophe. America has lost 100,000 people to this virus. Of those, more than 2,000 have perished in Maryland in less than 90 days. That's an extraordinary loss of life. These are loved ones, wives, husbands, mums, dads, grandmothers, grandfathers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, and children. Due to the nature of this virus, most never get to say a proper goodbye. We remain in phase 1 of reopening. That means restaurants remain open for carry-out. Retail is open for one person at a time. Hair salons and barbers are open for one customer at a time by appointment. Essential retail remains open and all businesses require a face covering to enter. As of June 1, we will align exactly with the county on all parts of phase 1. We will follow these guidelines. Non-essential retail will be allowing a maximum number of occupants based on one person per 150 square feet. Hair salons and barber shops will expand to one person per 100 square feet with necessary precautionary measures. Religious gatherings may occur, but may not exceed 10 people in an enclosed space. automatic car washes and pet grooming provided one customer may be inside the business at any one time. We continue our conversations with the county executive and the health department. We are committed to a safe reopening strategy. The effort required to achieve the best outcomes are worth it. Anne Arundel County is getting it right. The testing, the contact tracing, the outreach to vulnerable communities, and the pace of the reopening. When we get to phase 2, and we don't know when that will be, but when we get the word, we will be ready. Our Small Business Recovery Task Force is working feverishly on a plan to help businesses be as successful as possible. A little later tonight, Co-Chair Mr. Franyo will report to you what is happening to our businesses. We're excited about these plans to start reopening, and we have the participation of business owners all over the city and in every industry you might imagine. Their input and feedback is key to our success. I want to speak directly to those who are engaged in these efforts. We are listening and we want to hear more. We know what great pride you take in your business from your interactions with the task force. Your ideas, your energy, and your time are invaluable in this process, and thank you. We want Annapolis to be back in business. We need to get there safely and without taking a step backwards into lockdown. We must continue to encourage people, encourage our patrons to follow the rules, to wear face coverings, to maintain physical distancing, and to frequently wash hands. If we can do these things, we can get to the next step even sooner. This happened at the end of April, but I'd like us to take a moment to honor the memory of Bill Tyler, who was dedicated to this city for more than 2 decades as a finance director. Bill passed away from COVID-19 on April 25th at the age of 84. He is survived by his 3 children and 6 grandchildren. As John Hammond remarked to me over the weekend, Bill was totally devoted to our city. Bill was a fine public servant, a good man. He will be missed. Let's all take a moment to honor Bill Tyler. Thank you.
A long time when I started in 95.
Thank you. And lastly, I'd like to recognize a group of people who are really getting a raw deal in this pandemic. The year 2020 was going to be momentous for high school seniors, first-class midshipmen, seniors at St. John's College. The ceremonies and celebrations to mark their graduations are happening in small groups, virtually, or as the county announced today, in one-on-one mini ceremonies for students and their immediate family members. These are once-in-a-lifetime events, and you don't really get a do-over. But that lack of formal and usual celebrations doesn't mean they have not worked incredibly hard to earn that diploma or degree or become a commissioned officer. I know that your families are also proud of you. I'd like to ask my fellow members of the council to give you all a huge round of applause. We are all very proud of you. And the council goes wild, and I would like to hand it over to Mr. Franyo. Are you on the line, Dick Franyo? I don't see you there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
You can see me? Hear me?
We can hear you. You gotta click video.
No,
Okay, my good wife will come in and show me how to do that.
He's going to be on for audio only.
Okay.
It's audio only.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Also a parent of a 2020 high school grad, and so it's a unique time. As you know, I own the Boatyard Bar and Grill at Eastport, in Eastport, and I've been honored to chair the mayor's small business recovery task force with Steve Rice. He's a good man, by the way. You've got a good hire there, so thank you. The task force has done a lot, accomplished a lot, and we are scheduled to report to you on another date. So I won't go into everything that we've done. As you probably saw, Steve and I had an op-ed in the paper a week ago, which outlined some of the things that we did. But what I want to talk about is the task force strongly supports, and I strongly support as a business owner, the establishment of these recovery districts and recovery zones that you will be talking about. I've spoken to just about all my peers in the business, in the food service business around town. We've had 2 calls, one with 91 owners and managers on the line, and one with about 70 some. So we've talked a lot about the business and what we're going to foresee. These are unprecedented times. There are unprecedented troubles looming for us as independent owners, and there will be a huge struggle when we're finally allowed to open up under phase 2. The protocols that require us to distance, which will lead to less than 50% of normal seating for dining guests, and the loss of all standing bar patrons. Speaking to others, we expect sales of only 25 to 40% of last year due to the reduced indoor seating and the loss of standing bar guests. I'll state that again. We expect sales of only 25 to 40% of last year's sales. I've done a forecast for my business for 12 months under phase 2. Don't forget, phase 2 will go until we can open phase 3, and phase 3 will not be until we have a vaccine. So this is going to last a while. And when I look at my business for 12 months, starting when we can open under phase 2, I lose money every month, a lot. And I welcome any of you to call me, and I will walk you through a forecast. It's telling, and it's a template for everyone else. Again, we lose money every month, and it's just the same for all of my peers. Some may be worse than us, and I expect some businesses will not make it. We need to open outdoors for the next 6 months to have outdoor dining to make up for some of the loss that we lose inside, given the fact that we're going to have to put tables distance apart. If you come into my place, I will show you. It looks silly. If you look at our dining room distance, it looks silly, but we're going to have to live with that. As I said, we need to open outdoors for the next 6 months until at least it gets cold. We have 6 months of normal weather, or good weather coming up to recoup some of this indoor working footprint and to keep our guests safe. which is important to keep our guests safe. These recovery zones and districts will allow the city to throw us a vital lifeline. In this independent businesses like mine and others are a defining element of our town. We need to safeguard the uniqueness of each establishment to our charm and a place that we want to live. Can you imagine Annapolis where McGarvey's becomes a Green Turtle, Middleton's becomes a Chili's, Harry Brown becomes an Outback, Osteria becomes an Olive Garden, and then 909 becomes a California Pizza kitchen. Some of these businesses will not make it under strictly indoor distance dining. We're facing a crisis, and we need your support for this recovery effort, including these recovery zones. Annapolis does not want to lose its charm that we all love. The task force thanks you, as always, and thanks you for your good work. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Questions?
I have a question.
Alderman
Yeah.
Gay.
Yeah, so if with the outdoor dining, which I totally support, if in West Street, the restaurants there obviously could use the outdoor space on West, and Main could potentially switch over. I'm not sure how they feel about that. But where would you put the outdoor dining for instance, your business or the businesses that are across from you in that area?
Yes, thank you for that. That's an excellent point. Everyone will use everyone will come at it in a different way. Obviously, downtown doesn't have parking lots, that are contiguous. So downtown's perfect for closing streets or using sidewalks or using expanding seating into front end parking spaces. If you get out of the downtown area, and that's the same for Maryland Avenue, same for Dock Street, the whole area. If you get out of the downtown area, you look at Forest Drive, Eastport, West Annapolis, most places have contiguous parking lots. They have contiguous, lots. They have some of them have a lawn out front. And so it would be natural for those areas to expand outdoor dining, some under a tent, some not, into those contiguous spaces. And if you read about what many of the other cities have done, they've really used all of the above: streets, front end parking, contiguous parking lots, contiguous lots, and front lawn. So it's really going to be different in each district. But we want to set up a recovery districts in each one, which will allow us to do some of those things.
So I just pulled up the map really quick. So for you, it'd be fourth. Like, would that be an area of possibility for shutting down maybe like the latter half, the bottom half of that, so that the restaurants could take advantage of it?
Well, in our particular case, we have a parking lot in back and parking lot in front. What we would want to do is, again, we're losing so many seats inside. We would want to recoup those seats in the front lot. We wouldn't go beyond. We're not going to go more than we would normally have. We're not going to recoup the standing bar guests. We just want to recoup the tables that we're going to lose inside and put them outside, because we just can't make it on the inside.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Alderman Pendle-Charles had a hand up next. Alderman Gay, for Maryland Ave, they would like to just do one direction of traffic. And then that means that they could claim half of the street or a third of the street to expand into that very narrow sidewalk. So that would give them some capacity. And Harry Brown's, for instance, could come through their side door and grab some of that capacity too. So, but it's different in each area. So we will have recovery districts, recovery zones, recovery areas, and there'll be just sort of different versions of that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may clarify what Gavin said. So let's just take Eastport. Eastport would be a recovery district, and it would probably go all the way from the Eastport Yacht Club, because they'll want to do the same thing, or SSA. It'll be all the way to the shopping center, because you've got 3 places there, and they're going to want to do something. They'll probably go to the owner of the shopping center. They'll ask if they can expand some seating out front. So that'll be a district. What we're thinking about is actually making 4th Street a zone, but that's a whole nother thing. So that's our plan.
Can I just another really quick question? Has Rick Gordon been a part of this process? Because I'm looking at, so say we do like the thing on Main. I mean, that's like all of the parking revenue for the Main Street meters and things like that, or wherever it is. And obviously transit routes would have to be fixed and all of that. Is he a part of this task force?
I mean, we communicate, definitely there's communication with the transportation and all the heads of departments on this, on how we get it done. Yeah, there will have some alterations to routes at certain times, but I do think we're probably going to have to accept that our parking revenues are going to be pretty dismal for this whole year, really, because what we're here to do is to get people back on their feet and help the businesses get back into operation.
Thank you again.
Alderman Pendell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Franyo, this is Rhonda out in Ward 3. Thank you so much for your service and an excellent article in the newspaper.
Oh, thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Out here in Ward 3, according to ADAD, I have about 800 businesses in Ward 3. And I know there's some COVID business recovery funds that may be available. Can you give us a snapshot about those and possibly some timelines?
Sure, and the mayor can too.
Yeah.
Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I think the design district or the shopping centres in your ward really are eligible, like the whole city. Every part of the city is eligible for whatever programs we come up for recovery zones. So if they choose, say, and generally most of those have parking lots. So if they want to repurpose their parking lot and make it a recovery area, they'll come to us and we'll work it out. One of the things that we are encouraging every business to do is apply for the county's Corona, it's not called this, but it's the Corona Preparation Grant. It's a $10,000 grant that any business is eligible for. And that's a grant so that you can buy plexiglass shields, that you can upgrade your computers to work outdoors, you can buy tables and chairs or umbrellas or things like that, things that you have to do to prepare your business for operations in a COVID kind of way. So that is being put out to everyone through Stephen Rice.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, also the timelines, and will there be something, say, succinct in a couple of paragraphs that we can send out to our businesses to let them know, first of all, we're thinking about them, we're praying for them, but we also want them to be able to navigate this in a efficient sort of way. So there's something coming from your office that we can send out to our businesses.
Absolutely, and when it's finalized, we will, and that's very, very soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, because that's something. I mean, I'm talking, like I said, about 800. So I want to make sure I get it out to everyone. Thank you.
You know, one of the many things that our small business recovery task force is doing is we have a cadre of very smart, experienced business people. And any business can go into Steve Rice's office and we offer counseling, a one-on-one. If someone needs help doing a cash flow, marketing plan, whatever, we are standing by.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alderman Pendle Charles and then Alderwoman Finlayson, did you have your hand up? Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think I'm done with my questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Alderwoman,
I think it was Alderwoman Tierney who was next. But
okay, Alderwoman Tierney, sorry.
Thank you, Sheila. Very quickly, is there any representative of Ward 3 on the task force, Dick, or is there any opportunity for representation from Ward 3 on the business task force?
I can answer that. There are two. It's Rita Spirwell from Minuteman, also Walter Vasquez from Sin Fronteras. When I looked at the list, correct me if I'm wrong or there's some names added, Mr. Franyo.
I think you're right, and Steve would certainly know, but I think that's right.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
We've got 40 some incredible business people who are working and doing a great job.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Yes, two questions. One, Dick, is there a webinar plan for businesses that are in like those that you find in the design district? I know there's been webinars targeted towards restaurants and those businesses that are more downtown area. But do you know whether there are other plans for webinars? You know, I know the hair salons were planning to do a webinar.
Right.
The hair salons, the barbers, and those salon type services. So I think maybe there would be one warranted for those who are out in the design district.
I think that's a good point. We've had a lodging one, which went very well. We've had a retail one, which went very well because every business has got its own unique things to deal with. I would love to have one, and I think we're trying to make it work. I'd love to have one in the beauty, fitness, beauty, massage, anything like that, where, people are very close to people and they've got their special things that they're going through. I think one in the design area would be great, and we can do it. Thank you.
I had spoken to Stephen about one for the, like I said, the salons and, that industry, because I had a representative from the state approach me to offer to do a webinar for us. So thank you. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I have another question, but it's more virus related particularly. A couple of weeks ago, probably longer now, you asked me to seek out some information about our wards and where particular cases were in existence. And I reached out, as I told you I would, to Fran Phillips' office to try to get that data so that we could do some targeted testing. And at the time, we were not able to get that testing from the health department. Are we now able to get the data based upon our wards and the cases? And I know we talked about the fact that we can't get information that would compromise anyone's personal information, and that's not what we were asking for. We were asking for community information so we know where to particularly target our testing. Have we gotten any further with the health department in getting that information?
We had Dr. Nilesh on our call today for the team leaders. He has not calculated that yet. He assures us that it's any minute now, but it wasn't today. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Franyo, between maybe you and Mr. Stephen Rice, if I could maybe forward to you the list that ADAT sent me, and we could compile maybe, like Alderwoman Finlayson said, looking at Annapolis Design District, but looking at the types of businesses I have out in Ward 3 to see if we could come up maybe with 2 or 3 webinars. Does that sound like a plan?
I think that's a great plan. And, you know, there is nothing better than businesses to get their peers on the line and share these, you know, what they're going to be going through. And when we've had any of these, I've received so many calls saying, you know, we've never, ever recall the city sponsoring, you know, calls with up to 91 or 30 or 50 or whatever businesses on the line at the same time and sharing thoughts, not only sharing thoughts about their concerns, but sharing thoughts about what can we do to make people feel safe when they come back. That's one of the things that we've done in each of these.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, I want to say a big thank you to Dick Franyo, and we especially want to say thank you, Dick, because Dick put up his own money to get the councillor to start working on the task force. So that was so generous of him. We hadn't established a funding source, and Dick didn't want to lose that person. That person helped a lot of people apply for their PPP. That person will be essential, I think, for the next phase when we need to get grants from the county to get businesses up on their feet and COVID ready. So, Dick, we can't thank you enough. Let's have a little round of applause for you as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. City Attorney to present the next. Oh, sorry, Alderwoman Finlayson has something to say. Sorry.
It's breaking up. Mr. Mayor, are we making a request to the county for fund?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little.
Okay, am I back now?
Yep, that's better.
It went away and it came back, okay. Are we making a request to the county for funding for the task force? You know, we have a list.
Yes.
And I don't remember whether that was on it or not.
It is, yes, yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to say, Dick? All right, Dick Franyo might have left us. And Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Petition reports, communications, beginning with updates from the mayor. I don't know if you want to consider that your previous comments, your update. After that, it's report by committees and written testimony from the general public.
So let's go to the committees. Anybody have anything to report out from their committee? Alderman Payon? Need to get your speaker on.
Okay, sorry. I'm unmuted now. The audit committee met last Tuesday. We met virtually, just the same as the council's meeting right now. It was a very fruitful meeting. We do have a number of things going on. We will be meeting again in the month of June. Hopefully, it'll be at the council chambers at that time, but we don't know that. Don't know what's going to happen. At any rate, I will get back to you and the council as soon as I have more to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Payon. Alderwoman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number one, I can't say enough about our public safety team. We have not met, Public Safety Committee, we have not met, but they're doing an exceptional job. And Alderman Gay and I have communicated about having a joint Housing and Human Welfare and Public Safety Committee meeting. So I'm going to defer to the younger portion and chair of that. And I look towards Alderman Gay to move us along. So youth leadership matters. So Alderman Gay, whenever you have a date or whatever, or a series of dates, just let me know and we'll see what we can do about that.
Definitely, and thank you again for considering that. I appreciate it.
Sir.
Anybody else with a report out of a committee? Okay, thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is written testimony from the general public. The comments from the public were automatically forwarded to the city council members prior to this meeting.
So you can view public testimony on www.annapolis.gov/public testimony. And I will be reading the submissions of people that submitted and also their addresses as they would at the podium. Alderman Pound, before I proceed.
Did it again. Okay, are you gonna read the individual entries, or are you gonna, okay.
Yep, the names of the people and their addresses. And they can go to, again, I'll repeat, www.annapolis.gov/public testimony. So we have an email from Phil Dales on behalf of Mary Quintanilla. Submission from Lawrence L. Harris, Jr., 1999 Forest Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. Lon Powell, P.O. Box 6461, Annapolis, Maryland. Lisa Wilson, 601 Oaklawn Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. Vincent Willard, 16 Bunch Street, Annapolis, Maryland. Sherry Hutton, 1970 Forest Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. Robert Waldman, 100 Poplar Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. Heidi Rothenhaus, 198 Acton Road, Annapolis, Maryland. Ken Henry, 198 Acton Road, Annapolis, Maryland. Phyllis Emmett, 15 Jeremy's Way, Annapolis, Maryland. Carl Larkin, 154 Prince George Street, Annapolis, Maryland.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just to remind you that the topic they were speaking on is at the top of your list. I think these folks spoke on 03919.
Okay, thank you. That was, sorry about that, for 039-19. Speakers for 0-18-20 are David Frankel, 929 King James Landing Road, Annapolis. Speakers for R2620 are Charles Parker, 141 West Street, Unit 202. And then we have a miscellaneous speaker who didn't put down a particular piece of legislation. That is Louise Thomas at 1305 Anglesey Drive, Davidson, Maryland. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mayor?
Yes.
Alderman Arnett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received numerous comments from people saying that, well, first of all, they question why we're continuing on with business as usual under such adverse conditions. But secondly, the problem with the public testimony, the way we're doing it without reading it, is no one gets to hear this public testimony. I know the county council is reading the public testimony with certain time limits. I would quickly note that we have been able to finish our council meetings by 9 o'clock with great regularity now that we're doing this virtual meeting, but part of the reason is because we're not hearing public testimony. There's no substitute to actually seeing people at the podium presenting it, but to not have it read, I think is really doing all of our constituents a great disservice. I'm not sure I want to be the one to read all of those. Many of them are actually relatively brief, and maybe some of them we only read the first X number of words on them, but I would strongly urge we reconsider how we're handling this public testimony to make it much more public than we're doing right now.
And we are evolving the process as we go, Alderman Arnett. I do apologize to the public as we sort of get our head around this. Alderman Payon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is what the substance of what I was going to say a moment ago before you started reading the names. I thought you had said you were going to read the actual letters or the messages that we received. I think that is the good and proper thing to do. Believe me, I'm the last person who has a problem with our finishing our meetings at 9 o'clock. But I do think that we need to take the time. If somebody took the time to, send us this information, and several of these have presented some very good information, that we really ought to have someone read those, whether it's you, whether it's the clerk, the city attorney, maybe. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm not concerned about emphasizing certain words or phrases. I just think they ought to be read, period. And we ought to do that. And I, like Alderman Arnett, have received, in some cases, the same complaints. But I've also received them from different people in my ward. I think it's appropriate that we not only make their letters part of the public record, but to read them into the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Yeah, I just actually wanted to say that I'm happy to see that more people are taking advantage. Definitely, we've seen an increase since when we first started in this pandemic. People are understanding what's going on, and it's unfortunate that we are not able to have people to come speak before us. I know that's something that the team is working on, so I commend them for that, getting us updated with the technology needed for that. And secondly, I enjoy getting the public testimony in this format prior to the council meetings. I email back and forth with the people, send links and stuff. I mean, I love it. So I think it's great. That's one of the silver linings in all of this. So thank you.
And Regina has a comment.
I just wanted to say that we did set up a new website link now. If you go to the link www.annapolis.gov/public testimony, you can actually see the person, their address, and their testimony in the Excel spreadsheet, and it is on the city's website.
Thank you.
So you might want to visit that website.
Alderman Pendle-Charles had a hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now you all definitely can't throw tomatoes at me from here, but I'm going to make a suggestion for whatever it's worth. Maybe we should take ownership. The letters that are in our particular wards, maybe we should be responsible for reading them if we decide that they should be read at these meetings. I think we can go through pretty quickly. Don't want to put the whole burden on the mayor to read them all, but maybe we should read, and we can give emphasis where we want to and where maybe we don't want to. But anyway, that's my nickel's worth of advice today. But you can't throw tomatoes today, and I see our city attorney has his hand up, so there must be an issue with that. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
I love that idea. Save me reading. Mr. City Attorney, and then I'll go to Ross.
I recommend that we consider that very thoughtfully, only because we don't want to go down the road of allowing a certain process. It has to be fair and balanced, and we cannot differentiate between sentences, words, paragraphs, people, and it would get very dicey once we start making those kinds of choices. So I would say that it would require a lot more thought on our part.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly want to take heed of the city attorney's counsel. I strongly support Rhonda's suggestion and am more than willing to read the ones, and since my guys are sending in a lot, I'll be doing a lot of reading, but I think that is a fair way to do it. But we really have got to recognize that we have 40,000 constituents out there who vote for us, and thousands of more who depend on us. And we really need to heed what they're saying, give it the proper recognition and exposure. So I don't know what we need to do to follow the city attorney's counsel, but I would urge that we, as soon as possible, change the way we do business to actually reading those in the record. we may want to encourage people to be concise, to conserve on our vocal cords, but I think that's a big, big step in the right direction.
Alderman Tierney had a hand up.
Oh, yeah. Until we resolve this, could I have clarity on the website? I'm having problems with my backslash and forward slash. Or could Julian maybe, scroll it across the screen or something? That would be cool. The testimony website.
They said they were going to do that today. Yeah.
What is it again?
Regina?
Julian said it is going across the top of the website currently.
Oh, it is on the TV. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on Facebook and YouTube.
And on Facebook and on YouTube.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's YouTube.
I have my television on and I can see it. Yes.
and I just asked David Gerald, Mr. City Manager, what I read on the county is that they were moving away from reading testimony. Is that just they're going to limit the amount of time, or are they going in a different direction? Do you know?
My understanding is that they're going to written only, and that they're not reading the written testimony. I just heard that today, so I have not verified that, but that's what I heard.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar. And on the consent calendar, you've got several first readers. O2120, conveyance of city-owned property to 113 Cathedral Street, LLC. O2220, conveyance of city-owned property to Kathleen Wuffle and the Wuffle co-trustees, as well as O2320, payment for city services. And that would be the end of the consent calendar. So that's the consent calendar.
Alderman Net.
I would like to remove O2120 and O2220 from the consent calendar. I have several questions about these, but I just don't think we should ever do any surplusing of city property through the consent calendar, even though it's on first reader.
Move those to the back. Regina, got it?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So we'll approve the agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
A second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir. Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderman Pendle Charles,
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payam.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is public hearings continued, beginning with 0520, City Council meetings order of business for the purpose of modifying the order of business for regular and special meetings of the City Council.
We have received no comments from this. I don't see any hands up. Alderman Savage.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that this be held open another till the next meeting. How long has it been open for public comment?
Regina?
This is the second meeting for 05. And the next meeting of the City Council is your budget meeting on June 8th, and it starts at 10 a.m.
Okay. Oh, it's already been up for 2 meetings. Okay. I'll withdraw my motion then.
Unsecond.
Okay, I don't see any hands. So I'm going to declare the public hearing for O-5-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O1520, Waterfront Mixed Maritime District for the purpose of allowing professional offices in the WMM zoning district in accordance with certain standards, amending certain parking standards, and making stylistic changes.
So we have received comments from the following persons. Jackie Wells, 201 Severn Ave, Annapolis, Maryland. Do I see any hands? Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received a lot more comments than that. We've also had a Maritime Advisory Board meeting that recommended many actions on this. I haven't gotten that yet, but one of them is that it be withdrawn. I have asked for it to be postponed before it goes to the Planning Commission. It was scheduled to go to the Planning Commission this month. I very much appreciate a lot of information that I've gotten from Dr. Nash and the Planning and Zoning staff. There's still a few more pieces of information that I need to get before I think this is ready for prime time. And I will take under advisement the recommendation that this be withdrawn. One of the things that's come out of the Maritime Advisory Board, and I think they've been pretty consistent on this, even in their transition team report to you, Mr. Mayor, and when you first started, is that we want to piecemeal changes to the Maritime, that we take a look at the Maritime in its totality. Dr. Nash has agreed that it's time to do that. The legislation is 33 years old. Much has changed in the maritime zones and broader in the maritime industry. And so that's one of the things that I'm taking into advisement on this. Quite frankly, one of the reasons why I want to keep the legislation alive is because I'd like to keep the pressure going to have a more broad look at the maritime. I have gotten a lot of input, a surprising amount of input from maritime businesses on this legislation, mostly favorable, also advocating that it be opened up to all maritime zones. So we have a real tiger by the tail here, and I think we need to proceed very cautiously. The opportunities for unintended consequences are very large, and I'm very aware of those. So I just wanted to give the council an update on my thinking. This is my legislation that affects Alderman Savage and Alderman Tierney and Alderman Payon because we're on the water, but I think it really affects the entire city. We're a maritime city. We're a city where maritime businesses are an important part of our life. So I am proceeding very cautiously, but I am continuing to move forward. And again, I want to thank Dr. Nash and the Planning and Zoning staff. The information they've given me has been very helpful, and I'm taking it to heart.
So Alderman Annette, are you making a motion to push it out or not?
Well, we already have this open for public hearing through the second meeting in June. We recognize that the budget meeting is June 8th, and we're not going to have time for anything else. So I don't want to change that. We'll see when it's ready to go to the Planning Commission, and we may or may not keep the public hearing open. Once it goes to the Planning Commission, that is itself a public hearing. And then usually after we get the Planning Commission report, we have another public hearing before it goes to committee. This may go back to the Maritime Advisory Board. It'll certainly come to the Rules Committee and any other committee that other alderpersons wanted to go to. Economic Matters comes to mind as a committee that might be relevant here. So I'm happy with keeping the public hearing open till the 22nd of June. By that time, we'll know whether we're going on to the Planning Commission, whether we're withdrawing and resubmitting a major revision to the legislation. I just don't know at this point.
Just going to get some clarification from the city clerk.
That was my request at the last council meeting. You know, I am getting hopelessly lost in where we are on these postponements, but I believe I did ask for it to be held open
until today,
after the budget hearing. And if not,
I'll second.
I seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I remember something like that. Alderman Tierney?
Yes, the question is sort of directed to my colleague Alderman Arnett. For background, I've been looking at this report called City of Annapolis Maritime Industry Economic Survey dated 2008. Do you know if there has been any sort of survey or a report on maritime subsequent to this 2008 report?
Yes, in fact, I have 3 accordion files full of maritime studies. I believe there was one in 2012. I have it here, I could go through it, but actually, one of the things that came out of the meeting, a meeting I had with John Arison, is the 2 most important studies were actually done in 1986. One was maritime land use and the other was maritime business. I have the maritime business report. I'm trying to get land use, but those were the precursors to the maritime legislation in 1987, August 24th, 1987. Some of the things that people don't realize are that a lot of the things that are in place in the maritime zones were in place when the maritime legislation was put in place. And they were in fact recognized and grandfathered into the maritime legislation. A particular case in point is the Annapolis City Marina, which was in existence. It was passed by the council in 1981, approved in 1982. And the maritime, the WMM, the zone that's in, is the only zone in code that acknowledges, recognizes professional office space, and that's because that already existed. But those studies in 1986 were recommended maritime zones because of the encroachment of restaurants, hotels, and office space. And so there are a lot of studies. I have a wealth of them, and I think we probably all can benefit from at least getting a cursory view of them, or possibly a written report from planning and zoning, because they don't have anything else to do, right, David? But there is a wealth of study, and to me, that points out how important this is to the city of Annapolis and the amount of studies we've done. But there are innumerable studies, each of which have their own merit, and some of which are newer than the 2008 study.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the latest, so I could ask Sally, perhaps.
Okay, has his hand up.
Ginger, when you ask her for that information, because I've been plaguing her.
Okay, thanks.
Let me go.
Yeah, no, I just actually, Ross, I supported this legislation initially, and I still do, because I had that personal experience, where my job had to relocate because the building went under the allotted amount of office buildings for this area, and so the entire complex had to leave. And some businesses left Annapolis. Luckily, we stayed local, but most of them left. So I definitely support it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think we are wrong to focus only on maritime zones. We really need to focus on maritime business, only part of which is conducted in the maritime zones. The maritime zones are important because that's our avenue, our access to the water. So we really do need to pay attention to that. But maritime business the maritime period is changing dramatically. Business response to that is changing dramatically. But we need to look at the business more broadly. And that's kind of the input I'm getting from the maritime businesses is, some of the most important ones are West Marine and Faucets, and they're not on the water. And yet they're a very important part of our maritime industry. So, we need to be thinking about this more broadly. Maritime Advisory Board has said, look at it in its totality, don't do it piecemeal. We tend to make mistakes when we do things piecemeal. So let's give this a broad view and make sure that we're going in the right direction for everybody. But I thank you for your support, and I agree with your comment. It is a very important part of our lives here in Annapolis.
Okay, Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Alderman Arnett, for keeping this open. As you said, it's going to potentially impact a number of our wards, especially Alderman Tierney and I and yourself. So I look forward to reading more of the public testimony and really get into this in committee more, because I do have a lot of concerns that I'd like to get into at some point.
Thank you. Okay, we'll leave that open. You've got that date set. Regina, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with ID 141-20, City of Annapolis Notice of Proposed Real Property Tax Increase.
So this is an increase due to the assessments. Our Finance Director, Jody Dickinson, wants to give some clarification. We are not raising taxes. This is a step increase that we do all the time. Please take it from here, Jody.
Correct. So we are required by the state to hold this public hearing, which allows the citizens to comment on the city's proposed FY21 tax rate of 0.738 per $100 of assessed value, which is the same as the current tax rate. Because property assessed values are increasing by 3%, applying this same tax rate will generate $1.5 million of additional tax revenue. The constant yield rate is the rate that, when applied to next year's assessments, would generate the same amount of revenue as FY20. And as you can see by the information on the agenda, the constant yield rate is 0.7165. The assessed values increase because we're on the third year of a phase-in from the reassessments of 2 years ago. So we're just taking in that extra 3% increase in the assessed value and applying the same tax rate.
That is critical revenue. Did you have some more on that, Jody, or shall I hand it over to?
No, this is a public hearing and it allows the public to send in their comments in whatever form we're taking them in, and we are keeping the comment period open for several days, so they have a chance to comment under this new way of doing our meetings.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett had his hand up first, and Alderwoman Finlayson.
Thank you. So first of all, I believe the finance director is to be commended. This is actually the most thorough explanation of this. In the past, it has been a couple of sentences and it has slipped right on by. Because, however, no good deed goes unpunished. This is getting an incredible amount of response. I'm surprised we don't have much public testimony, but I can guarantee you my phone is ringing off the hook, and email, and there are a lot of people that are concerned. I agree there is a misunderstanding on the part of many, but this is a tax increase. It's not a tax rate increase, but it is a tax increase. And many of the comments that I've been getting are, why are we increasing taxes in a time when people are losing their jobs and having pay cuts? There are some rejoinders to that, but I think it needs to be done in a full discussion with our constituents. The rejoinders are things like our cost of doing business are going up. Would be a major accommodation that we'd have to make in your proposed budget, Mr. Mayor, because we'd need to find another $1.5 million of either spending cuts or additional revenue. It is possible, given the glut of COVID money that we're getting in, that we might find some additional revenue. I'm not sure I would want to depend on COVID money, but I think we're already at the margin in terms of finding spending cuts where we can just say we'll take a little here, a little there. And we're now very much, if we have to accommodate, and we should consider whether we should accommodate this $1.5 million, things like deferrals of COLAs, furloughs, reductions, like, for example, not appropriating the money for the 10 police officers, closing a fire station. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we may have to, when we do our budget deliberations, get into discussing if in fact we're going to go to constant tax rather than the constant tax rate. So this is pretty serious, and a lot of people have been awakened, are sensitive to this, and I think we're going to have to figure out how we do some due diligence for this between now and June 8th, our budget hearings.
And Jody, could you just clarify on the COVID money? All indications are that none of it can be used for budget shortfalls.
Correct. As of now, the restrictions on the COVID monies we're getting has to be used for expenses that we're incurring directly because of COVID-19. It cannot be used to replace missing revenue sources. That's what we have at this time. So it's restricted, and we would not be able to use that money for our operating costs. And the reason this is called it's an increase in the real property tax dollars, not the real property tax rate. And only because 3 years ago, when our properties were reassessed, we have to phase in that increase in the assessment and take it in 3% each year. And so every year we've been getting $1.5 million extra from that 3%, from that 9% increase.
And Jody, does the county phase in the same way?
Yes, we all take the increases over 3 years.
Thank you. Alderman Finlayson was next, and Alderman Gay.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Dickinson, can you tell us a guesstimate of what it means for any household in the city? What this increase will mean as far as dollars are concerned?
So I don't know the total number of households. If you have an estimate of how many households there are in the city, I can do a quick calculation for you.
Oh, I don't know. What is it?
I have to look at that statistic. I don't have it on top, off the top.
I think it might be helpful because it's not, any increase is an increase, no question. But we're not talking hundreds of dollars or even $100 per household. It's considerably less than that.
Yeah.
So I think it may be helpful if we could show that number or say what that number is so that people aren't frightened, because when you talk about an increase, they make certain assumptions. And while you provided excellent information, I think it needs to be shown in a way that everybody can relate to.
Ms. Dickinson, I think it's about 16,000 households, somewhere there about 60.
So I just looked it up. It says 15,664. That would be $96. But remember, some of the taxes come from business property as well. So that 96 wouldn't all be applied to a household. It would go also to the businesses that pay the taxes as well. So you'd have to find the mix and to do a real calculation to see what it would mean for residents. It's less than that, some point less than that.
Thank you.
Alderman Gay.
Yeah, my questions were my first question was along that line of how we break down for each individual family. That's kind of been answered. And then my second question is more with the wording of this, and I kind of would like you to walk me through just so I can get a better understanding. So it says, if the city of Annapolis maintains the current tax rate. So when you say maintain, that confuses me because I don't think we are making any increase. But then below it says, I think it says that it should drop to like 7.1 or something like that.
All right, so I'll try to.
It says it should be reduced to 0.7165.
Right, so it's saying that if you wanted to collect the same amount of tax dollars next year, because the assessed values are going up, you would have to set a lower tax rate to get the same total dollars. But we're keeping the same tax rate, and the assessed values increase, and therefore we will collect $1.5 million more in revenue, total revenue.
Okay, when you break it down like that, yeah, thank you very much.
That language that you see on our agenda is straight from the state of Maryland. We are required to put that exact language in the publication in the newspaper. They dictate the exact wording.
Okay.
It's long and kind of involved and walks you through it step by step. But the constant yield rate would yield you the same total dollars collected.
And because we are not sticking, because we are sticking with that constant rate instead of dropping below, we'll have the additional.
Right, correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderman Tierney, did you have a question?
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as the definition of constant yield. There was something in your second sentence, Jody, that I misunderstood.
Correct.
Could you?
I said the constant yield tax rate is the rate that when applied to next year's assessments would generate the same amount of revenue as FY20.
In its entirety.
Right, and that is the 7165 rate that's in the agenda.
Have we ever in the past reduced our rate when our assessments increased?
I can't answer, not in the last 2 years, I know that.
We did several times in Ellen Moyer's administration because property tax values were going up so incredibly fast. And so there were some major reductions in the tax rate. I think we got down to like 64 cents or 63 cents per hundred, or maybe even lower than that. It was one of the talking points Ellen used when she ran for her second term. So there have been times, but it's been a while ago. And it was when we were really experiencing very rapid increase in the property tax assessment.
Well, we'll look forward to those days of a revenue problem, excess problem. Alderman Byrne was next.
Thank you. Let me see if I can. I was getting a cramp there in my elbow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the call, say this is not a tax increase is a little specious thinking at best. I've got people in my ward that'll be paying well over $100 a month more as a result of this. I have some that are paying, will pay less than $10 a month more. But it's money that is significant and important to a lot of people. It's something that we frequently in the past have just glossed over and kind of going, oh, yeah, okay, I understand. But I, like Alderman Arnett, have been getting an awful lot of pushback on this thing from surprising sources. I've tried to explain that it's not a tax rate increase, that it simply allows the city to accept money as a result of higher assessments that took place almost 3 years ago at this point. I don't think that we can ignore this as a council. It needs to be looked at. I don't quite understand what the finance director meant when she said it can't be used to balance the budget.
I was talking about the COVID-19 money that we are seeking from those grant sources that are coming through the county. And that right now has a stipulation that you have to use it specifically to address COVID-19 issues. You cannot.
I did not understand that. I thought you were talking about what's
No.
been.
Oh, the tax dollars are used for operations as normal.
Well, what will we be using this $1.5 million for? Where does the money go?
It's built into the budget as one of the revenue sources in next year's budget, as proposed in the FY21 budget that we've been evaluating over the last 2 weeks. It's one of the changes. It's one of the only revenue sources that's going to be going up next year. Most of them are flat or going down.
All right. Thank you very much.
And if you could stress, Jody, how hard it's been to even fill the COLA shortfall of 500. So please keep this in mind. The COLA is presenting a lot of challenges for us, and that's much less than the shortfall that this would cause if we change directions. We have a revenue problem, And we're not sure what property values will do next year, but this year we have to focus on this budget. I had Rob Savage next, then Alderman Gay. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to remind folks, this is just a public hearing. We will have plenty of time for discussion at our all-day budget meeting and even before and after that. So it'll give us time to get more information so we can have a more productive conversation at this point.
And I will second that. I have a lot of stuff on the agenda today, just letting everybody know that. Alderman Gay was next, then Alderman Pindell Charles.
Yeah, thanks. Jody, would you speak to, I know you said it has to be done every 3 years.
The property values in the state of Maryland are reassessed every 3 years. The city of Annapolis was reassessed for FY19, and the assessed values overall went up 9%. And that's partly that we were coming off of those lows that they had during the economic downturn, and we've been climbing ever since. That 9% increase in the value of the property cannot be taken all in the first year. We have to phase it in 3% each year for 3 years. And then for FY22, the state will reevaluate the properties in the city again.
So because of all that's going on with COVID and economic downfall, is it possible at any point, I understand that the 1.5 would be, it'd be really good for the city, but I'm also thinking about the people who could have possibly been laid off or suffering without work who now will have to pay, as Fred said, some people in his ward, $100, like how does that work? Can this be delayed or?
You have to set your tax rate on July 1st. To take effect July 1st, you have to set a tax rate that's enough to balance your budget that you're setting for next year. So we cannot delay the setting of the tax rate. It'll be established on July 1. And
so
then we'll be talking about.
So we'll just have to, the additional funding they'll have to now pay, they'll have to go pay.
I'm sorry, there was a little bit of an echo there. So the mayor's proposed 21 budget includes the same tax rate of 0.738. It includes this additional 1.5 million of property tax revenues. That is included in the budget we have proposed.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have that? Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Getting back to the households question, Ms. Dickinson, is there any way that you can provide us with some sort of information? Say the lowest household in Annapolis, maybe who owns a home, would be $20,000. That's the low end. The upper end would be, I guess, 3 or 4 million. Is there some way you can provide us with a kind of a matrix as to an estimate as to which, when you go through the households, how much each household would have to pay each year when you do your calculations?
Yes, I could give you a chart that would say, for instance, if your house is worth $20,000, this is how much extra you would pay by keeping the same tax rate. If your house is worth $30,000, this is how much additional taxes you will pay in FY21 due to this. I can do that, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah,
and even, my mother was an algebra teacher, so she always broke things down into smaller parts. You could break it down per month and even how much it would cost per day. But we can do that on our own. We can do the division. Yeah. But I'm just trying to
pay their property tax either in September or they can pay it in two installments, September and December.
I mean, just out on a household budget standpoint, if you wanted to look at it for your own edification, how much would it cost me per month if I had to set aside a certain portion, or every paycheck, how much would I have to set aside a certain portion? Okay. I'm just looking at it, breaking down into smaller parts.
I can come up with something like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderman Tierney.
Hi, I'm confused because as a city resident, I know what the increase does myself. I don't understand the question on why we need the city to tell us. I mean, proportionally, you can kind of figure out what the increase is as a city resident yourself, right? Am I misunderstanding?
You can, but I think what she's saying is she wants to be able to tell people when they're concerned that they're going to pay more because their assessed value is going up, how much that will impact them dollar-wise. You can figure it out yourself if you want to take that step.
If you're an engineer.
No, it's in the bill, but that's okay. Okay, thanks. All right, maybe I'm a nerd. I don't know.
Since assessed values are going up 3%, your taxes will go up 3%.
Like they did last year and the year before.
Yeah.
So we received comments from the following persons. John Butler, 407 3rd Street, Annapolis, Maryland. Vic Pascoe, 308 Chester Avenue and 306 Chester Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. Deborah Dillon, 320 State Street, Annapolis, Maryland. And Frida Wadley, 403 Chesapeake Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. I think we're gonna, I'm not declaring this closed now, we're keeping this open, right?
Yes, you want to close this now, Mr. Mayor? You've got to close it in order to deal with the budget coming up in June.
Okay. So I declare the public hearing on ID 14120 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Sure, the next item on the agenda is 01820, Institutions for Care for the Aged.
We have not received any comments on this. I see no hand. Alderman Savage has a hand up. Alderman Savage.
Yeah, we did receive 2 comments from David Frankel in my ward. I think you may have read that earlier under general comments. I haven't had a chance to give everybody a briefing on this. I can do it whenever it makes sense to do so, but there was some incorrect information that I'll respond to the council. But I would like to move that this be kept open until our second meeting in June, I guess it'd be.
Second.
How's that agenda looking, Regina? Okay, so we'll leave that open.
Meant June of 21.
We need to take a hands up for that one, Regina, or just you can put it on.
You need a vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Hands up. Aye. Anyone opposed? Hand up. No one opposed. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 01920, City Council Public Hearings.
We have received no comments for this. Do we see any hands? I declare the public hearing on CA-1-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda.
The public hearing that was just open was 01920.
Okay.
Yeah, you can close that one.
1920, sorry. Okay. Thank you. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. City Attorney.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Did you say you're keeping the public hearing open?
Yeah.
No, we're closing on 1920, right, Mr. Mayor? That's what you said.
I'm on CA-120 is how it's written on my docket.
No, we were going back to make sure that you close the hearing on 01920, City Council public hearings. I think that's what you did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just to clarify. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is CA-1-20, Deputy City Manager for Resiliency and Sustainability.
I have no comments from the general public. Okay, I declare the public hearing on CA 1-20 closed. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present
Mr.
the next.
Mayor.
Alderman Arnett and then Alderman Savage.
So, Mr. Mayor, I've been getting a stream of questions about the public hearing on the constant yield. At one point, it was said that we were leaving the public comment open for X amount of time to give people more opportunity. And then it sounds to me like we just closed the public testimony on that. I need a clarification as to which it was.
I'll get some clarification from the City Attorney, please.
Yeah, we closed the public hearing on that.
And the reason, is it a timing issue? Jody?
I have to, and I'm sorry I didn't catch that when it happened, but because we're not taking testimony in verbal form currently, the state wants us to continue to get, it says the public hearing, let's see, I'm trying to find it on here. The council will accept testimony for 7 days following the public hearing. So I don't know if that means the public hearing is closed or open, but we will continue to accept comments from the public for 7 days.
That's right, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Seven days.
That means it's open or closed, but we have
It's open. Yeah, it's open for 7 days, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
But at that point, it's closed. From the standpoint of the meeting is what I was talking about. But yeah, we will accept testimony per state law for 7 days.
Okay, if we could afford our constituents that. Alderman Arnett?
So that's what people were saying. They thought it was open still for more testimony, and apparently there's a lot more to come.
It is.
All right, so I'm not sure what it means then. Is the public hearing open or closed?
Testimony
it's open
is
for 7 days.
All right, so, all right, thank you.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was trying to catch you before you closed it, but for CA 120 and for O 2020, unless there's a time sensitivity or urgency, I'd like to keep this open because it's only been up for public hearing for one meeting.
Second.
I'm gonna pass it on to Regina because of the volume of deferments here. I'm sure we can vote on that. Regina?
Well, for clarification purposes, the city attorney just read in CA 120. So you have to take an action on that. If you wanted to leave it open, then you need to leave that one open first and wait until he reads O 2020 before you can act on it.
So before we open, go to the next item, do we need to reopen that? If you want to, you'd have to put a motion for it. Is that, what are you saying, Regina? Tell us.
No, sir. Mr. Mayor, to have a public hearing left open, you can do that. You can just say that the public hearing is left open until a specific date, or you can close it. Now, if the aldermen, if you decide that you want to close it and they want to leave it open, then they could vote and get a majority and keep it open.
And I would recommend the date certain.
Yes, if you want to do that.
June, maybe in July or August.
Alderman Savage?
So you're saying, did I hear a date for July or August mentioned?
That's on.
Yeah, because June, you're stacking June up with about 12 other public hearings that are remaining open, and you still have to deal with the budget overflow. So if you don't get everything closed out on June 8th, you still need the 22nd to be able to do it before July 1st. So we're really trying to make sure you have enough time and space to deal with the budget, should it not be completed in the first week.
Well, I mean, presumably we're still going to be meeting virtually at that time anyway. So, I mean, all the public testimony, we're the ones taking up time talking during all the public testimony at this point. So if it's just being a matter of going through the list and saying, reading out who submitted comments, it's not going to take up much time in June, even if we have 24 things up for public hearing. But if we are going to be meeting in person, getting testimony in person, then certainly I can see the point of it being bogged up or bogged down.
My only point is that we're not putting anything on June 8th. So if you want to keep it open, my suggestion would be that the vote have a date attached to it, as opposed to, so that we don't run into clarification problems about when something is going to be open for discussion.
And just for clarification, Regina, we need a motion to reopen it because I closed it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we need a date to move it to.
Yes.
And we should all be mindful of how much stuff that we're pushing backwards. I just want to make a point of that, but that's up to you, Alderman Savage, if you want to reopen it and we can take a vote on it.
Yeah, I would like to move to reopen.
Second.
Clarification, we're opening Charter Amendment 1, correct?
Until when?
Yes.
CA 120, right?
That's not how it works.
Gina? Okay, so let's take a vote on this. Everybody put their hand up in support of it. Say aye.
That's crazy. You don't have to do it.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Those opposed? Raise your hand. I'm right. Way to go, Alderman. Okay, I'm with you. Thank you. So we're going to hold that open. Alderman Arnett?
So there's two different kinds of pushback on this. One is coming from people who are saying, sounds like you've already pre-selected for the position, which is probably true. The other one
No,
is,
it's not true, sir. No, it's not.
all right, so we're going to publish this and do a full advertisement.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. The second one is, how can you increase the tax rate and then add more staff? Which, so I think there is ample reason why we need to keep this open. It's become sensitive because of other issues.
So we are not adding staff, we are moving staff. Maybe David Gerald could give us some clarification if we choose that person.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 3 people currently in the Office of Environmental Policy, and we'll have 3 people doing those similar jobs in a different organization. So one of the people will move to the Planning and Zoning. 2 positions will move under the City Manager. 2 of the positions will be essentially the same, so the people will stay into that. The other one has a title change, so we will have to determine if that needs to be advertised or not. But that will be a different titled position.
Thank you. Alderman Pam was next, then Alderman Finlayson.
You're not even looking up.
Come on, Fred.
Okay, something popped up that I had to hit. So if we don't hire the person that I think most of us seem to think we're going to hire, then we do create a new position. Isn't that right? We're going to fire the person that doesn't get the new job.
Point of order
I
here.
don't think we need to go down that path.
Please,
This is still
let's,
public comment.
let's-
This is not a discussion.
Let's stay from the personnel discussions, please.
Finished, Alderman Pam?
Yes, I guess I am. I didn't get an answer, but guess I'm not going to.
Okay, Jody, maybe you can help us here.
I just want to clarify, when are we proposing to postpone this to?
That's a good question.
Have they set a date?
June. My proposal was the second meeting in June.
Okay, so the proposed budget has been built with this change embedded in it, meaning we move the funding for the positions around in the budget. So if we're amending the budget on June 8th, and this is not going to be considered until after, we have to consider what that's going to do to amendments. So I just wanted to put that in your minds.
Okay.
But
Alderman Savage?
We're not going to be able to get this voted on before the budget meeting anyway. So we might as well take our time and get some more public testimony. But I mean, to Alderman Payon, your question is valid, but not for public comment. We keep having these huge discussions during public comment period. Let's just wait for the proper period, which is during a second reader or in committee.
My lips are sealed.
I doubt it.
Got some sunflower seeds in them. Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. We voted on this already, Regina? Did we get the date down?
Okay.
We did not get a date.
No, we
didn't. Motion to postpone. We did not get a date. So now we need a motion and a second for the date.
June 22nd.
Could I get that, please? Are you seconding Alderman Finlayson, or would?
I thought I was next to speak.
Yep, you are.
At least that's what you
as I
said.
get a second. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. Alderman Finlayson.
Well, my question was pretty much the same as Alderman Payon. So now my question is to Mr. Lyles, because we keep getting put off from discussions. And while we don't need to speak to specifics, staffing is part of our responsibility. So when do you propose that we have this discussion? Or do we need another closed session between now and the 22nd?
Well, you don't need a closed session if you're talking about classifying a position, opening a position, or providing a budget for a position. But once you start talking about who is being considered for the position, there is nobody considered for the position because there's been nobody put in front of you to consider. So you can't conflate the interest in a person or a name with what is going to happen because it hasn't happened yet. And so I'm just making sure that we stay away from the line of an open and fair competition for a position that you have not even created.
Well, let me remind everyone that the Finance Committee did not recommend the staffing as was outlined in the mayor's budget. Okay, we requested that the recommendation going to the full council takes that office back to its original position.
And that will get voted on, I'm sure, Alderman Finlayson.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, you have a motion and a second.
Okay.
For June 22nd for this to stay open until.
Alderman Gate has his hand up and.
Yeah.
That's to leave. That's the close.
Alderman Gate.
So, no, I just wanted clarification from Jody so that if the budget is to be voted on by or discussed on the 8th, you said, and this is the 22nd, so then we have to go back and make any changes if we don't vote this through, correct?
So I think you'll have to ask the attorney if we'll be allowed to make additional amendments on the 22nd. If you want to make a final amendment on the 22nd before you finalize the budget. But normally we would be considering the amendments on the 8th and voting on the amended budget on the 22nd. So I'm saying if there's any amendments that are coming that need to be processed to move this back into its original formation, we need to have them on the 8th.
So basically on the 22nd, when we get there, if this is passed, it will already be in the budget. It won't need to be amended.
No.
Okay, Regina, you're
No. Okay, let me just say, if this motion is to keep the public hearing open until the 22nd, that will be the only action on the agenda on June 22nd. There's no full vote. It goes to committee next. So you're looking at July to get the final vote on this legislation, CA1 and O2020. You're looking at July. That's all I want to say for clarification.
So to hopefully this better explains it. The funding in the budget, the appropriations are set as reorganized. Let's need these two pieces of legislation to go through.
Who's eating chips?
Red.
I couldn't hear anything she just said.
All right. So the appropriate appropriations established in the budget are as if the department were split and reorganized. But you still need this charter amendment and the ordinance to make it happen. So the funding is in the new place, and depending on what happens with these legislations, we would have to go back and fix where the appropriations are. Now, that could be done later as well. I'm just telling you the timing of this is important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Yes.
By the way, I'm muted.
Without expressing an opinion, because this is public testimony, based on what Jody said, would it not be prudent to at least have that amendment drafted to go back to the status quo? Because it sounds like the timing is not going to work out to the benefit of this charter amendment. Would you agree?
Mr. Mayor?
The city attorney.
You won't need that. We'll make it real simple for you. If, right now, the proposal is in the budget. If this particular position is not approved, then the city manager and finance will have to reconfigure that amount for the way it is now, the status quo, basically. And you can change it later. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
We could do it in July, August. We could do it.
Right.
Okay.
But understand that it's going to be a zero-sum game. Unless there's an increase in the money, then you'd have to figure that out. But I don't anticipate that the way it's being proposed.
Okay.
Okay, and the legislation has 5 sponsors. And Alderman Gay.
Yes, okay. That brings me to my next question then. So what if we do decide that there needs to be a raise? I mean, it's gonna either pass with or fail without. So how do we fix that?
We cross that bridge when we come to it.
I was going to say that. Right now, that's not being proposed at all, and it's not on the agenda tonight, and it won't be on the agenda in June 8th unless someone puts it on the floor. In which case, you'll have to.
I'll put it on that time. I'll put it on the floor and I'll put it on the agenda. Because the way that, again, and obviously this is the public hearing. I hope that we get, I ask that this be restructured and it be clear in this proposed legislation exactly what is taking place in that office. And that hasn't happened yet. I mean, you got one person coming in over another person at the, whoever it is, in their office, making more money than somebody who would be doing more work. So that needs to be fixed. And we also need clear examples or clear descriptions of what each individual will be doing in their new role. We still haven't seen that. It's been word of mouth.
That's a mischaracterization out of an Alderman Gay. That is not right. So the person that is there now has a set salary. The person that...
Yeah, and it's higher than the person who would be doing additional work.
Okay.
I believe by like $30,000.
We're falling into that lane again, and I would recommend that we not fall into that lane discussing specific individuals and what they make in a personnel capacity without going into executive or closed
Even
session.
if it's a new person, that salary would be moved over, and whoever it is would be making more than the current person who would be doing more work than whomever this individual is.
Can we just get some order here, because this is way out of line. This is out of order. We need to. I want to have a robust discussion about this, but tonight is not the time, people. Come on, this is a public hearing. Write down your question, and I'd be happy to help. I'm sure anybody in staff would be happy to help. I mean, I'm trying to bite my tongue here. I have a lot to say, but come on.
You have a motion. You have a motion and a second on the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Out of order to select
June
that open.
22nd.
We're keeping it open, Alderman Gay. We're keeping it open, Alderman Finlayson. We have a first and a second on that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. To keep it open so you can debate it. All those against say no.
No.
The motion carries.
No for keeping it open. Is that 2 people? Do you need a roll call, Regina?
We can do a roll call if you like. You don't need one.
Please.
No, we don't need a roll call. Your call is sufficient, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Let's go on to the next thing. It has been left
Mr.
over.
Mayor. Yes. My opinion on the next item is O2020, for the code change, is like the CA 120. In my opinion, they should all go together. So we shouldn't have to do this whole vote again for this particular item, Mr. Mayor. And we can move to legislative action, second reader, if that's your desire.
Yes.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is legislative action, second reader, beginning with 01119.
Excuse me. So we still need the mayor to say something regarding whether the hearings are going to be closed today or left open until the 22nd.
We just voted to keep open CA 1-20.
Right.
Am I right?
Yes, and now we're on O2020. And
Okay, would you like to do the same motion
Right.
for that, Alderman Savage?
yeah.
So moved.
Second.
A second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 We are keeping it open so that the debate can continue.
Thank you.
All those opposed say no.
No,
No, I want to
Is
give
it
it to the
no?
floor.
we're going to be shut down anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. Legislative action, second reader, beginning with 01119, R2 NC district demolitions.
Alderman Arnett, we know everybody's position. I believe this is going to get postponed.
Yes. I thought I'd asked for it to be postponed until June 22nd. Ask the council's indulgence for that. I have had some discussions with planning and zoning, and we're getting some things clarified, but it's not ready for final vote.
Okay, that's your motion to postpone O-11-19. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of postponing it, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to postponing it? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is 03419, planning and zoning appeal procedures.
Is there a motion to adopt O-34-19?
No, there's a motion to once again postpone until June 22nd. Again, I've been in discussion with the planning and zoning, but also with the chairman of the Board of Appeal. We're not there, but we have meetings scheduled for the coming week.
Okay, that's a motion to push it out to what date, Alderman Arnett, again, sorry?
The ever popular June 22nd, which is now going to be, but at least till then. I mean, I can push it. We can go to the first meeting in July. I don't think we need that time. But if we're getting overloaded on the 22nd, I'll make that motion to go to the first council meeting in July.
I'll second July.
We'll be starting that meeting at 6 a.m. So we have a first and a second. Regina, can you?
Rob said he will second the first meeting in July. Ross said June 22nd. Which date?
No, Alderman Arnett changed it to the first meeting in July, and it was seconded by Alderman Savage.
Okay, do we have any discussion on that? Sure, none of us have a problem. All those in favor say aye. Show of hands. Aye.
Aye. It's crazy.
All those opposed, raise their hands. Thank you. Another deferment. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is 03819, Housing and Community Development Committee.
Is there a motion to adopt O-38-19 on second reader?
No move.
Can I get a second, please?
Second, if I didn't move it.
Second, okay, we have a proposed amendments, O-38-19, the Savage, Finless, and Arnett amendments, O-38-19, Gay amendment, and O-30-19, Savage amendments. Would you like to talk us through those, councillors?
I am trying to pull up the rules amendments. Julian, do you happen to have them? Never mind, I have them. There are 3 amendments from the Rules Committee. They're pretty much housekeeping. The first one speaks to striking, and I quote, Annapolis Housing Authority and substituting it for the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis Board of Commissioners. And the second strikes the word all and includes act in line 16 on page 2. And the third amendment strikes the words only by unanimous consent and substitutes it for a majority of vote.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
I thought I asked for this one to be removed at the Rules Committee meeting.
I believe you did.
Okay. So we will vote on these without O-38-19, Alderman Gay's amendment. Alderman Savage?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, these amendments. So where I'm coming from with these is the way this committee is in the base ordinance being changed to a commission. And commissions typically, and this is through conversations we have with the law office as well, commissions typically do not have city council that actually serves on the committees. In this case, it would open up some potential conflict because this committee / commission actually has and would be voting on making recommendations regarding the community grants. And so, correct me, Mr. Lyles, if I'm not speaking accurately, reflecting what you had said, but the law office thought that this opened up a bit of a conflict of interest since we are the ones who end up voting on the final recommendation from the community grants. But again, since all of our commissions operate where the council does not sit on them, we can certainly attend, but we don't have voting rights like any other commissions. It's just my intention is to make this consistent with all of our others. And so but it does preserve the rights of the housing committee, the standing committee members to each recommend somebody for appointment onto the committee. So they still would be able to have, some influence over that commission and who gets appointed to that. And so that's basically it. It would still have the other members that are listed. I think that's about it. Yeah. So any questions, let me know. Is that accurate, City Attorney?
That is, sir. That is, sir.
Alderman Gay had his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I completely oppose this amendment. I appreciate the concern, though. I enjoy serving. Well, let me start here. Initially, the committee came to me and they said, "Oh, well, we want to, make the balance in the commission, so we remove the older people." I still wasn't for it. And then they said, "Oh, we have to do it because of the conflict within the voting for the community block grants, which has been done longer than since I've been on the council." And the Teresa Wellman, they brought her to the last Rules of City Government meeting, and she didn't lean in any way. She left it up to the committee to make the decision. I mean, if you're an older person and you're selected to serve on it and you don't want to attend the meetings, don't. But I think that to completely remove us, one, from the voting process, and two, from being involved on this committee that brings forth critical information, and that is in no way, as they referenced in the committee, the same as the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. They do completely different things. So yeah, I completely disagree with this amendment in removing the older persons from this.
Alderman Tierney had a hand up next.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned on whether this was ready for prime time, because there seems to be a philosophical difference, if you will, on the relationship between the two committees. I appreciate my colleague Alderman Savage's approach in sort of reflecting the Environmental Standing Committee and their relationship with the AEC. And I, for one, am torn, and Dwan and I haven't had a chance to really discuss this in depth, but I can say with the environmental example, that the Annapolis Environmental Commission discussion seems to have more liberty without an alderperson in attendance, and also that every ward is reflected, and that's something to think about with housing. You know, maybe this second committee would be more helpful if there was ward, resident participation from every ward, and having those good discussions. I just don't know if we're ready to vote on this tonight, because there seems to be this fundamental difference on the roles of each committee, and then there's also the legal vetting of it. I'm not really sure where the city attorney stands on this, so I apologize if I have to ask that now.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, the amendments from Alderman Savage take care of and resolve the essential conflict in legislators involving themselves in executive functions.
Okay.
Right. So either we remove the executive or implementation functions and keep the alderman on it, or you remove the alderpersons and you keep the implementation functions, which is part of this committee. You can't have both, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just wasn't, not speaking for my colleague, but that wasn't the intention of the sponsor. So this is all sort of unfortunate for my colleague, Alderman Gay, who should probably talk now.
Alderman Arnett was next, and then we'll go to Alderman Gay again.
So the city attorney is exactly correct, and the amendments that were offered didn't really speak to the issue. It was when we were reviewing the rest of the legislation, and we noted that this committee has administrative functions, and it cannot have alderpersons on a committee that is carrying out administrative functions. So the choice was to radically change the purpose of the committee, and keep it a standing committee, or to remove the alderpersons and allow the committee to continue on with its administrative functions. I think that it was a consequence of taking a deeper look at the ordinance as it was written. Alderman Gay raised the issue, why are we doing this now when we've been doing it the other way for all these years? And the response I would give is because we've discovered that we've been doing it wrong, and we've been advised by the city attorney that we've been doing it wrong. And that's why the Rules Committee voted to adopt the Savage Amendment that allows us to be legal. Otherwise, I don't think we can pass this legislation as it's written. So speaking to Alderwoman Tierney's point, it's not legal legislation, and it really would have to be pulled back and go back to the Office of Law for some kind of redraft, either getting the administrative functions out of this committee or getting the alderpersons off of the committee.
Thank you. Alderman Gay next.
Yeah, I'd like to have it postponed and have legalized, analyze this and, point out exactly where the conflict lies, and put it in plain English. And, there have just been so many reasons as to why this has to take place. I'm confused now. And as I explained before, it went from, the committee is the same as the standing, as the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. Then they said that we couldn't vote on the CBG grants. And it's just, I don't even know what is going on. As mentioned, it was a simple name change. And they did look and find, I guess, an error that has been taking place for the last, 92 years or however long. So yeah, I just like to have legal eyes look at it and pinpoint again where exactly the issue lies.
Second.
So we have a motion to postpone it to what date, Alderman Gay?
I'd like to postpone it to the second meeting in July, the 22nd.
June or July?
I'm sorry, June.
Second.
Alderman
question.
Charles, the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lyles, how long is it going to take for you to put together this legal eyes that Alderman Gay and everyone is asking for?
5 minutes. We've been dealing with it for a while. The issue may be that we need to help everyone understand the concept of legislators and administrators and why the two can't do the same job, right? City manager.
That's gonna take 10 minutes.
I hope it takes 10 minutes because really, once you understand that concept, then you look at the words in the ordinance as it's written, and you have alderpersons doing city manager functions, and you can't have that. And so my recommendation was to just take the words out that were implementory and leave the recommendation policy. But the other option was to take the alderpersons out and to leave the words in, the tasks that were administrative. So you can't have both, and that's a 5-minute discussion. We can write it up again if need be.
Okay, Alderman Gay.
So what's a good comfort level for you in getting in a postponement date?
You have a motion and a second to postpone it till June 22nd. I mean, we can provide something tomorrow.
Okay, okay, that's fine. That was all my concern. Thank you.
That's fine.
Alderman Gay.
Yeah, is it possible that I could actually just pull this bill right now?
Withdraw?
If the motion that I have on the floor fails, can I pull this bill tonight as one of the original sponsors?
Regina?
You can make a motion to withdraw. You would have to have a majority vote to do it.
You have to move to do it with a second.
Mm-hmm.
We're still on the first and the second from your postponement, right?
Postpone, yes.
Or can he withdraw that?
Well, what are we withdrawing? The bill or the motion to postpone?
The initial motion to postpone, does it have to be withdrawn or voted down?
Well, the seconder would have to withdraw the second, and then you could start over. But the seconder has to agree.
Look, I of all people could hardly deny Dewan's desire to postpone since you've all given me so many postponements. So I'll be happy to withdraw my second and make room for Dewan's next motion.
And Alderman Savage had some comments.
Yeah, I think it would be a mistake to withdraw this because even if it's withdrawn, we still have that problem in the code of something that is potentially not legal or, I don't know how you want to word it, the city attorney, but something that needs to be cleared up. And I think with my amendment and the others, it would make this stronger. I mean, Alderman Gay, and that's the whole purpose of commissions is to empower these groups to do deep dives that we don't have the time to do. They do deep dives with independents and provide us with their recommendations. And so this would be empowering that commission to do that for us. And that's what I think, at least for me, that's what I want to do is help get this strengthened and improved. I'm not looking to, take away any power, but if you think but I do think I don't think you should be assuming that you have a position on this commission. That's just not how that kind of thing should be set up. I don't expect a spot on the environmental commissions. I mean, I go in and hear their expertise, their recommendations, but I just think we should move forward with this and get the code fixed.
Alderman Gay, then Alderman Rodriguez has got his hand up. Haven't seen that yet.
I just don't. I mean, they've had this bill twice. They brought it the first time, and with the original amendments, they said it was no problem. Then they brought it back because someone asked to postpone it, and then they brought this Fifth Amendment forward. It was the game. It's the game to me, and I'm not here to play it. Like, why? I mean, you had the bill since whenever we initially, and they waited 4 months almost to bring the Fifth Amendment forward. If they wanted to remove us, they could have done that when they initially sent it back to the council.
I think it's the process, Alderman Gay. Alderman Rodriguez.
It wasn't a process. The person who postponed it wasn't here. That's what happened. As I mentioned, it's a game.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, postponing and having more discussion is a reasonable step here, because besides this potential conflict of interest between alderpersons being on the committee or commission and so forth, there are other changes that are important that need to be made regardless, like removing the part about the committee or commission having hiring authority over housing personnel for the city has to be removed. The name is significant. It's only a name, but it means a lot. Changing it to affordable housing and community equity development is key. And other, process changes that make sense, like having a quorum before instead of including all of the members of the commission or committee instead of just the standing committee. I guess it would be helpful for the discussion on the conflict of interest and the scenarios to understand what the administrative or implementation aspects of the commission or committee are versus and how that differentiates from what the legislative body does already in terms of recommending the community, allotting the community grants or allocating the community grants that come from the city's budget versus the recommendations or allocations from the community development block grants that the commission or committee, the housing commission or committee does today and will continue to do that. So that's a recommendation and policy, which I understand are powers within a commission or standing committee, but and maybe it doesn't have to be answered now, maybe in further research and discussion later, and hence the reason to postpone. But what are the actual implementation and administrative powers that preclude alderpersons from sitting on this commission?
So Alderman Gay, would you like to postpone or withdraw?
They're both sponsors.
And then I'll go to Alderman Pindell-Charles.
At this point, my personal opinion, I would like to withdraw the legislation, regroup with the individuals who have issues with it, and come back with a solid piece of legislation. I think my issue is, as I mentioned, is that the amendments just got too messy, whether the intention was good or bad.
Thank you, Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Alderman Gay, you haven't seen messy amendments. You've had a whole lot of them. This isn't one of them. Do not lose heart. First of all, it's worth pursuing. Our city attorney, we have all the faith and confidence in him. He said he could get something together in a little bit of time. I think it's worthy. This is not a game. Nobody's playing a game. Things happen for various reasons. I can't say why, but the thing of it is we're going to pursue it in spite of what you want. I think we've got the votes to keep going. So don't lose heart. It will happen. It will happen in the correct way. We will have it legally tested. And to be quite honest, you being on the council has brought up things that we've probably been doing for 92 years that all of us have just gone along with. But thank goodness you're on the council to bring these things to our attention. So with that being said, I don't want to postpone. We're probably not going to postpone it. You're going to have to live with the rest of us, and we're going to pursue it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just like again to add at that, since they are going to vote it whatever direction they choose to vote it. Let me not on camera. I'm sorry, I forgot.
So we could go back to the postponement if you would like. I think we shouldn't throw the baby out. I think we all agree with that. We all want to get this done, Alderman Gay. So I think you should.
You need a motion, Mr. Mayor, to postpone. That was withdrawn.
Your choice, Alderman Gay. Withdraw or postpone, please.
They can postpone it.
Okay.
That's what, yeah.
Until.
Virginia, what date?
June 22nd.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, you need a second for that motion.
I thought I had a second.
Second.
Now you can take the vote, sir.
Sorry. All those in favor, raise their hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we have a postponement. Another postponement. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is 03919, accessory dwelling units.
I believe Alderman Rodriguez has a comment on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to make a motion to postpone this legislation to the second meeting in June. I think everyone, I've spoken to my co-sponsors and other colleagues as well on this, and I think there's, in terms of broad support in terms of the intention of the accessory dwelling unit legislation and intent of bringing more affordable housing and considering that Annapolis is a welcoming and inclusive community. And I'm grateful to some of the community associations and organizations and the Planning Commission for having raised several issues or concerns with it. And I think we've already taken a stab at addressing some of them through the current amendments, and we have additional amendments that we need to continue to work on that I think constructively will improve this legislation. So thank you for everyone's dialogue on this, and I'd like to postpone until June 22nd.
Second.
Can I get a second on that to postpone it to the 6 a.m. June 22nd meeting?
Seconded it.
Alderman Payan had his hand up, but not his microphone on.
I was seconding the motion, that's all.
Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. Thank you, Alderman Rodriguez, for bringing this to our attention. And I just would like to say that and I know everyone received the Greater Parole Community Association's letter today. And like I indicated in there, the last count, as I recall, is that the association has 484 members. I would like to also add that we have gone in our community, we have gone to great lengths. In fact, it has taken several years because we had some very quirky things that had happened for our 50 townhomes at town courts that we know will be a step towards affordable housing, no doubt about it. But we had some really quirky things that happened along the way that took longer than expected. Of course, we have our new traffic signal at West and Gibraltar that will help to mitigate the public safety issues. It will be operational once the developer proceeds in doing what they need to do with the town courts project. So it might be around midsummer. But we do promote fair housing, and that's one prime example of Ward 3 really going the length and breadth because it took a long time. We've been down this road for 3 years, and you're talking about patience, but there are a lot of things that happened along the way that needed to be resolved. Anybody else would have given up on the project, but my community kept at it, moved at it, and so we're proud of that. So that's a step forward toward affordable housing. But as the letter indicated from the Greater Parole Community Association, we had some serious concerns. They expressed the concerns like many other communities. We've been working with Ward 8. This was one big project amongst several others when it comes to public safety and transportation that we've been working with Ward 8, something we've never done before. And we've had a great relationship in working with Ward 8. So I wanted to just kind of bring that to your attention, but also to the public's attention. People don't always see what goes on behind the scenes, but it's a lot of work that is involved. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of organization and strategy. It takes a lot of partnerships to bring certain things to fruition. If you want to do it right and get it right, then that's what it takes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderman Finlayson.
I was going to ask Alderman Rodriguez if he would consider postponing action until July. We heard City Attorney Lyles make a plea about the June 22nd meeting, I believe. And I know for myself, I would like to hear more from other wards. You know, it was Ward 8 that convinced me to reconsider my position on this legislation. And I think that if all the wards had an opportunity to get the data that was unique to their wards, there would be some different thinking about this legislation. And so extending it even further out would give everybody an opportunity to do that.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Sure. Definitely. I mean, I'm okay with, as long as it's, yeah, I mean, I think to the first meeting of July would be okay with me personally. Yeah, I mean, again, we've done some of the good work already to address some of the concerns, like not prohibiting the ADUs from being used as short-term rental licenses. You know, it already requires an additional parking spot and so forth. There's some more work that we need to do to ensure that they are actually affordable and workforce development market rate, which is a big thing and a concern that several, including from Eastport, have communicated. So we're working on an amendment around that. Also working with the Office of Law as well and some sort of amnesty program to bring current illegal ADUs into compliance by incentivizing them as well to be requiring them to be affordable rates. And so, yeah, I know that with further dialogue and taking into consideration some of the concerns, it'll just be a better legislation that I think more people can get around to support. So, sure.
It would also.
What date would that be in July?
July 13.
The seconder would have to agree.
You seconded?
He did.
I did.
You agree?
Say yes, Ross.
Yes.
My question.
Alderman Gay?
It would also give you an opportunity to go back to the Planning Commission because I think you told us during the Rules Committee that you had addressed the concerns of the Planning Commission, but I think they deserve an opportunity to come back and support your legislation.
Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Thank you. One of the really good things about being on the commission that you just voted to kick me off of is that we are required to read this project. And speaking on affordable housing, as you mentioned, there's a difference between the affordable housing that you're speaking of, which would provide typically 3, 4, 2-bedroom homes, and the affordability of what an ADU brings. And in this report, it says the majority of owner-occupied housing are 3 or more bedrooms, 75% of all owner-occupied housing in the city. So we lack 1 bedroom, which an ADU would be, a 1-bedroom affordable housing option. So that's that. 2, also in the letter from the Greater Parole Association, they described accessory dwelling units or tiny homes or granny flats as shanties and pushing us back or moving the town back. And I disagree. If you look at what an accessory dwelling unit is, or look at any of the models from jurisdictions across, it's exactly not that. It's affordable and quality house for an individual to live in. I'll support the amendment because, I'll support the postpone because I know that'll probably be the only way that we can do anything in terms of bringing affordable housing to this city. So, if
the city attorney had something to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind Mr. Mayor that this is about the postponement only, and the discussion should focus on whether that date is where you want it.
Okay, we've got plenty of time to discuss it. With that postponement, Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment. As one of the co-sponsors, I'm good with July. I think we've heard a lot of comments from the public and we have a lot to get into. And I think if we do this, we do want to make sure we do it right and try to get as many people on board as we can.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a vote on this, please. With a show of hands, all those in favor of the postponement, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no.
Ayes have it.
Fred's doing. Okay. Ayes have it. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is 0420 Plumbing Code Capital Facilities Payment Plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Pound.
the date is for the first meeting in July is July the 13th, not the 14th. That's all.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt O-4-20 on second reader?
I'll move.
Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Okay.
Mr.
Any
Mayor?
discussion? Alderman Arnett.
Yes, I'd like to offer an amendment that we strike all of the strikeouts starting on page 4, line 14 through to page 5, line 19. These strikeouts to me have nothing to do with the purpose of the legislation, and in fact would seem to me are striking out the very powers that the council was discussing earlier with Mr. Franio in creating these revitalization areas. And I don't understand why the strikeout found its way into the code, but I certainly do not accept striking out the powers of the council to create these revitalization areas.
I'll second that proposal or amendment.
Okay. So we have a first and a second for that amendment. Do you have any comments on that, Mr. City Attorney?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Sally would like to speak to that amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Sally. We'll hold that vote until Sally weighs in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that that is struck out from one section of the code, but then it is added in. We've just moved it to a different part of the code. If you look on page 6, we also renamed the revitalization areas. We renamed them for sustainable communities, as that is a mapped designated area that you can see on our city webpage. And revitalization areas are undefined.
I'm sorry, I don't see that on page 6.
On page 6, under eligible properties.
That's eligible for this payment plan, not for the revitalization areas. Revitalization areas are entirely different than a payment plan for water connection.
Right, so what we've struck out refers to these revitalization areas. However, there's no other reference to revitalization areas in the code. And so we wanted to update that with sustainable communities, as that is a designated area in the code. I mean, in the city, that is a designated and mapped area.
Well, that's not in the legislation, nor was it in the city manager's staff report. And in fact, the strikeout went totally unmentioned, which is, probably an oversight, I understand, but there's absolutely no rationale given for this strikeout, and I really don't want to see this stricken for the very reasons we heard earlier today from Mr. Franio. And I don't see anything on page 6 that looks anything like replacing all of those things on page 4 and 5.
Sally, are we mixing things up here?
Our intention was just to clarify this section and rearrange certain parts. I'm trying to find where we moved the other parts to, but I can tell you there is no actual thing as a revitalization district, which is why we wanted to have this legislation, because there's we had no guidance in terms of figuring out where our revitalization area is. So we redefined it. It's a pretty sustainable community that's described on page 6. And so that takes place where a lot of this language on page 4 is replaced by what we have in the sustainable communities, which I wish I could show you the map of the sustainable communities. I can email it to you. But
well, it's not in the legislation, and I think it is different. I don't think what Franyo was talking about was a sustainable community. He was talking about a revitalization area that we're setting up temporarily so restaurants can dine outside.
No, that is completely different designation. That is a new designation that we have made for the recovery areas.
Well, the code.
The revitalization areas were based on, in the 1960s, urban revitalization, which over time, I think in the city code parts of it got left out, and now it refers to no thing.
Alderman Arnett, I think we're crossing things over here. The recovery zones and revitalization areas are a different thing, and maybe the city attorney can give us some clarification. What was presented today is COVID legislation that is going to get us through that period. This dates back a long time before that was even a thought. Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, basically, Sally's correct. There was no definition for the language used, and so the strikeouts really are just going to moving language around, not doing away with something that exists currently.
Well, I have two.
Mr. Mayor.
One, there's no discussion in the staff report of this, and two, I don't think that's an accurate assessment, but if it is, let's put in a definition of what a revitalization area is.
Well,
hold on, Alderman Savage, hold on, let him finish, please. So, Alderman Savage.
So I want to chime in here because Alderman Arnett, I did second your proposal amendment, but I do think I'm satisfied with Dr. Nash's response, because sustainable communities and speaking also for Alderman Gay's sake as well, sustainable communities is not environmental. It is sustainable communities is from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. It's a grant program. I think we do have some level of approval for every year, but it's more for, it's even stated here, I'm looking at the Department of Housing website for community development, revitalization, and sustainability. But I do think that still carries over the intention of the original code and kind of fits that into an existing program. So I think it in some ways would restore some of the council's ability to designate those areas.
So I agree with you, but I think they're two very different things. Again, that sustainability is mentioned under the payment plan. I don't understand why even this other section is being confused with payment plan. This other section is very clear that it's setting up these different kinds of revitalization zones, which is not part of the payment plan for Sewer Connect. It has to do with something entirely different. So again, I'm at a minimum, I think that we need to get this defined in the staff report, what exactly is going on here, which it was not. And I think we have to make sure that we're clear what is being taken out, what is being moved, and whether they're the same thing or two different things.
I'd be happy to amend the staff report to clarify the changes from revitalization area to our sustainable community, which, as Alderman Savage says, is designated by Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. We have a approved sustainable community plan that we've just renewed after 5 years of a successful program. So I'd be happy to elaborate on that in a amended staff report.
And you can assure us it has no negative impact on the Small Business Recovery Task Force as ideas proposed by Dick Franyo. They are not related.
No, they're not related. And if anything, it helps them because this legislation was always intended to help small businesses pay their capital facilities charges over time. And we've had a problem applying it because we don't know what a revitalization area is, however, we do know exactly what a sustainable community is.
So did you want a motion to postpone until June 22nd so we can get a revised staff report? If so, I move so. Although probably now, second meeting in July.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Just for clarification, could we just have a little summary of what the genesis of this ordinance was? I think that's missing. It's very confusing to me. If somebody else can explain it, I'd be happy to listen.
Sure. So Hope Stewart brought this to my attention. She was looking for ways to help small businesses defer some of their capital facilities fees, which can be quite large if you have to pay it all at once. This allows certain businesses that meet a specific definition to be able to pay those payments, make those payments over time. But we wanted it to target small businesses, local businesses, and in areas of the city that we know need help. So that's why we looked for the designations that we had available to us. We thought sustainable communities was a good fit. And this just clarifies the payment plan that they are eligible to apply for.
And is it for utilities or other stuff?
It is when you open a new business and you have to pay a capital facilities fee, which is assessed by in our plumbing code, which is why this is called changes to the plumbing code.
Yeah, which makes it a little misleading.
Right, it is.
And I'm not speaking for my colleague Alderman Arnett, but I think his concern was the wipeout of the language that said that the city council should, some authorization of the city council language that was deleted without really being.
The city council does approve the sustainable community areas via our planning efforts. So every 5 years that's renewed.
Okay. I think that's all it needed is that explanation. Thank you.
So Alderman Arnett, I don't think you have a second for a postponement. I'm ready to vote to get some things done today. So does anyone want to second Alderman Arnett's postponement, or can we vote on this? Regina?
I'll second it.
Regina's seconding it.
No.
Regina, you had some comments?
I just wanted to say that there is an amendment currently on the floor with a second, and that's Alderman Arnett's motion. So to amend. So we need to act on that.
Okay. So we're going to vote that up or down?
Yes.
That is, you want to clarify what that is, Alderman Arnett? It is to unstrike the language?
Yes.
On page 4 from line 14 through page 5 on line 19. And so that's the motion. It was seconded.
Okay.
Can we vote it down? What was Sally's?
I'd like to withdraw my second on that one.
Can we get another second if anyone wants to second Alderman Arnett? Regina, did you say something? He can withdraw a second, is that right?
Yes, he can withdraw a second. So now you have a motion without a second.
Need a second amendment. If we want to vote this up or down. Can we get a second?
Without a second, it fails.
Okay, we got a second here from Alderman Payone. Okay, all those in favor of the Arnett motion say aye.
Aye.
I need to point it. I asked for clarification.
We just gave you.
It's a motion to postpone.
You're gonna need a roll call, Mr. Mayor, for the amendment to pass
this
the
is
amendment.
The amendment, and I missed Sally's. If she could just say yes or no, that's all.
Yeah, that's out of order, Mr. Mayor. You're going to need a roll call on the vote to amend. So this is that's where you are right now.
Unstrike the language that Sally said has been put back in another part of the legislation. So all those in favor of Arnett's amendment.
Well, you took a Mr. Mayor, you took the vote, but it was unclear. So I think you need a roll call at this time for that vote.
Okay, thank you, Regina. Please,
Okay.
roll call.
Wait, can we just clarify for Alderwoman Tierney, we're not voting on a postponement at this point. We're
Okay.
only voting on the amendment.
On the amendment. then.
Yeah, proposed by
Ross.
Alderman Arnett. Okay.
Got it.
All right, and roll call.
Okay.
Mayor Buckley,
No.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
She said aye. Alderwoman Finlayson,
No.
Alderman Rodriguez,
No.
Alderman Gay,
No.
Alderman Savage,
No.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
No.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
That motion is defeated.
So now you have the vote, Mr. Mayor, on passage or second reader.
Do you want to put forward a postponement?
I move we postpone till we can get more clarification. I still don't understand how we have morphed from a revitalization zone to a sustainable community area, and that was not explained in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second for the postponement to what date, Alderman Arnett?
The second meeting in July.
Cute. Any second on that, please?
Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the postponement say aye.
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 So we should do a roll call, Regina, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
No.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye. Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
No.
Alderman Gay,
No.
Alderman Savage,
No.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
No, I'm good.
Alderman
not.
Payon. Alderman Payon,
Aye.
okay. It looks like the motion to postpone is defeated.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt O-4-220 on second reader? I'm gonna go with Sally's judgment here.
Yeah.
Opposed.
Second.
Thank you. We've had plenty of discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Opposed say no.
No. No.
Could you get that clearly, Regina?
Yes. The motion to
Okay.
adopt on second reader carried, so you're on third reader.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt O-4-20 on third reader?
So moved.
No. Second, okay. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes?
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
No.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carried.
All right, we did some business. Yes. Did something. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is 0720 designated loading zones.
Can I make a motion to postpone it?
Second.
Got a motion to postpone and a second.
Until,
To the second meeting in July.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, no. No. I want, I'd like to make a motion to postpone to the 22nd meeting. I think June the 22nd. Yeah, I think the changes here we can fit.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Oh, sorry, Alderman Tierney, did you have some comments before we vote?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that rules and city government had a lot of questions, and it had here that they postponed it. Will it go back to rules? And I mean, how are we resolving their questions? They have to be resolved because it had to do with authority.
Right. So I think Alderwoman Finlayson is the chair of rules. I also have some comments to make.
I'm trying to pull, let's see. I am trying to pull up our notes right now.
This is where Ross had concern about the authority of where we could place the designated loading zones. But the legislation in its entirety is so that we can just create specific drop-off locations for ride-sharing apps in the downtown area.
I think one of the concerns was that it would open up for any location, not just in those 2 locations in downtown Annapolis.
That's correct. And myself, the Director of Transportation, and the City Attorney plan to fix those changes before the meeting on the 22nd.
And I think that's correct, Alderman Gay. The legislation as it's written now doesn't even involve the Director of Transportation. He gave us several items which I think greatly clarify, goes to a shared responsibility between Public Works and Transportation, involves the parking committee with a whole process for them. The one part that was suggested by the Director from Transportation, Mr. Gordon, was that he said that he was also going to ask the alderman from the ward to give approval. I question the legality of that. While I think it's a courtesy certainly to the alderman of the ward, I think that if it's going to be approved by council, it should be approved by all council, not just the council member of the ward. I think that could lead to all kinds of difficulties. So I think going back and getting the changes that, and including the Director of Transportation is a good idea. I think that will be a significant change in the legislation, so we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think there's a number of things that need to do to tweak this up.
Alderman Gay, do you feel like we can get all these things addressed by the 22nd?
I do believe so, yeah. And we've already, I need to actually respond back to setting up a meeting for sometime in the next week for the 3 of us.
Alderman Finlayson is next, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is on the agenda due to the 90-day rule. I would suggest that we postpone it until the July, the 1st or 2nd meeting in July. That would give the Rules Committee an opportunity to hear the amendments that Alderman Gay is working through with the Director of Transportation and our City Attorney.
How do you feel about that, Alderman Gay?
That's completely fine, yeah. That's absolutely fine.
Okay, what date would that be, Regina?
the second meeting in July, that's the 27th?
Can we do the 1st, the 13th?
Yes.
Okay, so can I get a second for that postponement to the 13th?
Yeah, I second the revised motion to postpone.
Okay. Well, we're all voting for postponements. Let's vote for this one. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nice. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 01120, City Council meetings attendance.
I move the motion.
I'll second it. Did we skip 0820?
Yeah, what happened to that?
It was taken off the agenda, right?
I don't have it here.
It was on an earlier version of the agenda, but the final version that came out dropped it.
Okay.
Can you give me some clarification on that, Regina? I'm not sure.
Okay. It was postponed in committee, so it did, Jacqueline removed it from the agenda.
It was postponed in committee. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now let's see about this one. A motion to adopt O-11-20 on second reader. Savage, Alderman Savage, is that a motion? Yep.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise their hands.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Arnett has some discussion.
I did get feedback from constituents on this. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I don't subscribe to it, but they did question having people not in attendance. I think we've demonstrated amply by the way we're doing these meetings that it's both technically feasible and possible. But I did want to make note that there were some people that were uncomfortable with this legislation. I support it.
Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you all will recall when we had similar legislation last year when several of us went out for various surgical procedures, and this allows us to carry on the business representing our wards. We have demonstrated now that this is very doable for us. The technology is there, the manpower to help us get through this new technological stage or world is here. So I think it would be appropriate that we be able to continue when necessary to conduct business in this fashion.
Thank you. Okay, no hands. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Postpone it.
Oh. Alderman Arnett, more.
No.
You want to postpone it?
No, aye.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Is there a motion to adopt O-11-20 on third reader?
So moved.
So moved.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payam?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Right. Got two things done. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is, Mr. Mayor, O-12-20, municipal infractions process.
Is there a motion to adopt O-12-20 on second reader?
So moved. Second.
No hands, no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Show of hands. All those opposed say no. Okay, ayes have it. Is there a motion to adopt O-12-20 on third reader?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Pendell Charles?
Aye.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payam?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Right, we're getting the hang of this.
Yeah, we must be moving towards martini time.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is, Mr. Mayor, O-13-20, sidewalk signs.
Is there a motion to adopt O-13-20 on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a tyranny amendment, is that right?
Yeah, that's just extending the date.
Okay.
till January 1st, 2021 for them to get a permit and the fee is waived.
Move the amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Show of hands. Opposed? No one opposed?
Move the ordinance as amended.
Right. I just have to give you that substantive. Is there a motion to vote on whether this amendment of 03020 is substantive? Everybody keep quiet. You. For a motion to adopt 0-13-20 as amended on second reader.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Show of hands.
Aye.
All right. Madam City Clerk, please call, is there a motion to adopt 0-13-20 on third reader? Sorry.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Indell Charles, thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
I, and I'm not postponing this date anymore. I'm done with this legislation.
Alderman Payon. That motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 01720, unsafe structures placarding.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Don't see any discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? That was an aye. Is there a motion to adopt 0-17-20 on third reader?
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay. Mayor Buckley,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles,
Aye.
Alderwoman Finlayson, Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
The City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is R1720, annual statement of performance standards.
So move.
Is there a motion to postpone R-17-20? Alderman Savage?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor, and Alderwoman Finlayson, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Rules and Government, I believe, did move to postpone this until after the budget.
Yes, we did, Alderman. As it says, this is on the agenda for the 90-day rule, so we have to vote to extend it.
Okay, the motion, and what date would you like to put it forward to, Alderman Savage?
I'll leave that to the chair of the committee.
I think we said July, I thought would give us adequate time.
Late July, early July?
Late July.
July
Got that,
27th.
Regina?
July 27th.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
The motion carries.
Passes. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is R2920, Affordable Housing Task Force membership.
So move.
Second.
Second, sorry.
And is this connected to what we were just debating at all?
No.
No? Okay.
This is easy.
Motion and a second on R-29-20. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I have to call the roll. Mayor Buckley,
Do we need to call the roll on this? Sorry. Yes?
Alderwoman Pendell Charles, Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Then all yeses, the motion carries.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
We can,
Sorry. Legislative actions, resolution R3020, youth violence.
Do a motion to adopt R30-20 on first reader.
I don't have that.
Yeah, where is that?
No, I don't have it either.
they're gonna put it on the screen in 2 seconds.
We'll put it on the screen.
Mr. Mayor, was this on the first reader?
Yes.
This is added on first reader, yeah.
Can we do a page view?
Yeah, this doesn't do me any good.
Can you guys read it or not?
Okay.
Can we scroll slowly through it, please?
Let me zoom out to like 60.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, keep scroll down a little more.
Are we gonna try to approve this tonight?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This is ridiculous.
It's just bringing it to the floor on first reader.
Okay.
Excuse me, there was a request from the sponsor to have the rules suspended tonight. Alderman Gay, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to. Just based off of what continues to take place in our communities, the unfortunate gun violence and the loss of life that continues to take place. And we keep talking about how we'll make change. And I think this is another way that we can make change, along with numerous other options that have been outlined. And so basically what I wanted to do, and I'll read this report really quick from the American Public Health Association. It's just a snippet of why I think this is important. A trauma-informed approach suggests that violence is not symptomatic of bad people, but rather is a negative health outcome resulting from exposure to numerous risk factors. The public health approach to violence focuses on prevention through addressing the known factors that increase or decrease the likelihood of violence. Within the health system, every interaction is an opportunity to prevent violence directly. Thus, the public health system must play a primary role in preventing the spread of violence, with the public health workforce involved in the critical functions of training, educating, and analyzing. And there must be an explicit focus on addressing inequities, and reducing racial bias in systems, institutions. So what I think is really important, and the reason that I want to suspend this is because it then gives us the opportunity to really look at changing how we police and bringing in mental health therapists to really push forward our conversations and get to the root of the issues in our communities. We can jail all we want. We're not getting to the issues. We have to start assisting people with mental health treatment, and I think we can do that. There are a number of ways I actually would like to. I don't know if I could speak on it just because it does involve some staffing. I hadn't had a chance to discuss that with the city attorney. But you get the general understanding of what I'm trying to do here with this legislation. And I think it's really important that we take an untraditional approach to how we will solve violent crimes in our communities.
So has everybody read the legislation? I see Alderman Payne hand up.
No, we can't see it.
No, can't see it.
Okay.
Can't say it at all. Can't say it at all.
Well, do you want me to read it?
Well, can't we get
That's not gonna help.
All right.
I'm not going to vote to waive the rules on something I can't read in front of me.
I think we will vote to get it on the floor and then see if you get a unanimous consent on suspending the rules. I don't think so. So
Can't we see it? I mean, can't there be some view where we can see it?
Regina, can you give some?
Well, Julian and Takir are currently here working on it. They're having an issue with making it small enough. That's the view that you will see if you can read it.
Not working. I can't. That's too small. Wait a minute.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Savage.
Just a clarification question. This is just a motion on. This is a motion on for first reader. I'm not clear on what. We don't need a motion to suspend yet. I think it's already been added to the agenda for first reader, and we can just vote on it like that. And then there has to be a motion to reconsider if there needs to be one. Am I correct?
Is this readable for the rest of the city council?
No.
It was a minute ago.
Yeah, a minute ago. Yeah. But now
go back, Julian, please. To the
it's available. It's online if people are able
is that readable?
Is that readable?
Yeah, that's readable. That's readable.
It's not readable. It's not readable on mine.
Yeah, it probably is not readable on a phone. How many of you are using your phone?
I'm using my computer so I can read it.
I'm using my iPad. I can read most of it.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Can we at least hear what the now therefore is? That the city council declares youth violence a public academic and support establishment, citywide trauma-informed education and response methods. I mean, Duan, I really support this notion, but I don't think that therefore does enough.
Well, I think this is just a resolution to commit that we understand that we have to, change how we approach violent crime in our communities. This is just the start. The action that follows is really the meat of it, and what will really hopefully change how we approach crime and how we interact in our communities as well. I should add that.
Alderman Gay, I think this would be very appropriate for this dual meeting that we're going to call between Housing and Human Welfare and Public Safety. I think this is a perfect piece of legislation that we could discuss there. I like to have some kind of teeth in this. I don't know, and I know everybody doesn't want to hear the two words, but are we looking for a task force to delve into this, or I mean, what's the end game? And I mean, I understand what the first part of what you're trying to do, but that's great. But I think there needs to be.
So can I tell you what my kind of goal is? And if I'm going too far, please cut me off, Mr. City Attorney.
Has he had a chance to look at this?
Yeah, the
city attorney
put it together for me.
I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, they had to put it together.
Okay. Alderman Gay, if you could give us a summary. I think we should get it onto the floor, but please give us a summary and then we'll vote on it on first reader.
Yeah, I as mentioned, I just think that it switches our approach to violent crime in our communities and how we interact with individuals who are committing violent crimes or who are who are just, seeing violent crime happen in their communities on a daily basis and the trauma that it inflicts on them. And I think that from this, what I would like to do is, because I know that we have additional slots available or I know that in the past, I don't know where we stand right now, but I think we have 116 police officers and we are funded for 122. And what I would like to do eventually is allow the police department to hire therapists to interact with the communities where they are seeing, surges in violent crime. Because I think that by, getting to the meat of it again, by understanding the social triggers that all of this creates, that then we will be able to say, well, this is possibly what you need, or this is a program that we can put you in. But to just simply jail and think that the community will change, I'm not seeing those results. I think it's critical that we just provide some sort of option.
Well, it's obviously a great thing. Let's try to get it on the floor, please. Can I get a motion to adopt R-30-20 on first reader?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
I can't see you all.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll say aye, but I sure as heck would like to see the legislation.
I'm emailing.
Not going to say aye.
And Susie has just emailed it to, or about to email it to every one of you. I don't think we've got the support to suspend the rules, Alderman Gay, but we can put a motion forward if you like. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes, I think this is a great effort, Alderman Gay, and you know I support the initiative that you and I have both promoted with us hiring a certified social worker that could assist in this capacity. I just have some questions about the language, and it's not on screen again, so I can't even, but the terminology, especially as it relates to the first paragraph, I think needs to be defined.
Okay, and which one is that?
Education, trauma, it's not on the screen, so I don't know. Anyway, I think we need to see this again. Would it harm us terribly if we waited until the next meeting?
Because I want compromise, I'm completely fine with postponing it. The urgency was, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I was just going to say until the next meeting, not any longer.
It's been voted on and approved on first reader.
Until the next meeting, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to put forward suspending the rules. Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Regina.
Wait, she has her hand up.
Regina?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't see who made the motion for R-30-20 because the legislation was on the screen. Oh, thank you, Alderman Arnett.
Alderman Arnett and Alderman Pendell Charles seconded.
Thank you.
That was Finlayson.
It was Alderman Finlayson.
Finlayson, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And the next item on the agenda is O-21.
Yeah, we took 21 and 22, 021 and 22 from the consent calendar.
Yes.
So they're in front of you now, Mr. Mayor.
You're gonna do them one at a time.
So is there a motion to adopt O-21, 20, and 22? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. No.
I can explain, Mr. Mayor. O-21-20, conveyance of city-owned property for the purpose of approving conveyance of certain city-owned property to 113 Cathedral Street LLC. And similarly, O-22-20 is conveyance of city-owned property for the purpose of approving conveyance of certain city-owned property to a Kathleen Wolfel and a Carol Timms and Sandra M. Wolfel, co-trustees of the Survivors Trust created under the Wolfel Living Trust.
And Alderman Arnett, you wanted these pushed to this point. Couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know why we're doing this. I'd like to know what the city is getting in response. And I have some concerns about the potential use of this in terms of increasing non-permeable space. Are there stormwater runoff issues? There's a whole bunch of things, but first it would be interesting to know why we're even contemplating this.
Let's get the city manager to clarify for us.
Sure. So both of these properties are sort of landlocked. They're locked in by a parking lot on one side and by buildings on the other side. The city's owned these for years and years. About 5 years ago, the adjacent property owners came to us to inquire about purchasing them. At that time, Alderman Budge was supportive and it started to move forward, and then it just kind of stopped. And that owner that came to the city actually sold the property, and now the new owners have come to us again. So they have offered to pay for the appraisal, to pay for the properties, whatever the appraisal comes out to. These are fairly small properties. 580 square feet would be sold to 113 Cathedral. 59.3 square feet would be sold to 115. They would plan to make it into parking They would have to deal with all the impervious and stormwater requirements to do that clearly. They would have to permanently pay for 2 of the parking spots in Larkin parking lot in order to have access to this, because it's blocked off by that parking lot. So it was just the only reason it was brought forward was to try to support the request of these 2 property owners. And again, the city has no real possibilities of using it.
Alderman Savage had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll save some of the discussion for committee, and I would like to refer this to Environmental Matters Committee. But I do have some concerns about, as Alderman Arnett said, the removal of open space for parking, which this area has plenty of parking if you consider the parking garages. So I just think we need to be very careful with this kind of thing. But also in general, I think land acquisition, I think we should put these things where we're selling the properties all in consent calendar. I think it's something that we need to really make sure we are aware of and discussing.
I would point out that we don't have a motion or a second for either of these 2 ordinances.
Okay, let's start with O-20 to 21-20. Can I get a motion to get that on first reader, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Alderwoman Rondell Pindell Charles looks like a second. Did you have something to say, Alderman Paone, or was it just a second? Okay. Alderman Gay?
Yeah, this is O2120, correct?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
On first reader? Alderman Finlayson? Frozen?
I think she was making a motion for us to adjourn.
No, she wasn't. She was deferring to me.
Can you hear me now? Did you have something to say, Alderman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you. I got kicked out for a minute. I was looking, and I'm afraid I missed most of what David, City Manager Gerald was saying. Is there anything that speaks to the value of the property and what they are offering? Did he speak to that?
Mr. City Manager?
The appraisals are going to be done, and after the appraisal will be done, then we'll know the proposed value. Did you understand that?
Yeah, I heard you that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't tell.
Alderman Arnett?
So why wouldn't we get the appraisals before we consider this? To me, the appeal is that puts this on the tax rolls. And particularly the city manager says, there's no possibility the city is going to ever be able to use this. I kind of like the idea of putting it on the tax rolls. But as Alderman Savage said, if it's going to be turned into parking, which I don't understand how it could be if they don't have access, although I have a text message saying there's no such thing as no access. They could claim a legal right to access, apparently. But if it's going to be turned into permeable space, I question whether they could get permits to turn it into parking space or permeable space. And the 59 square foot one, I can't believe that's big enough to do much of anything with.
Yeah, if you walk back there, it's pretty obvious, but it's just behind Cathedral Street on the city-controlled lot back there. There are little bump outs. Alderman Paone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm familiar with the property, and it's you're absolutely right. I mean, it's right next to each of the buildings. It's crying out to be part of a parking lot connected with the buildings. It's right there. I hesitate to give you any example, down by City Hall or anything like that, but the mayor's absolutely right. If you walk behind the buildings saw the property, it'd be very obvious that really about the only thing it could be used for would be parking. As such, it's valuable to the landlords, the property owners, presumably, and if we can't use it, it seems absolutely appropriate.
Will they give us $1.5 million?
I'm guessing not.
Alderman Tierney next, then Alderman Savage.
Yeah, a couple of things. I did send a picture to, I hope everyone received a picture of the, okay.
I did.
Yeah, so you can see exactly as my colleague Alderman Payon said that it is sort of landlocked. But I think the point to a couple of concerns for my constituents is the public process in this, and also setting a precedence on how this is typically done. And I don't have the answers to that, but were there dollar figures mentioned in these pieces of legislation? I thought for sure I saw dollar figures.
I did too.
It was like 8,000 and then $1 for one. I didn't see. David was.
Yeah,
I did not see those, Ellie. I didn't see the dollar amounts.
Okay, so there's no dollar
We
figure.
will definitely have that before this thing moves.
Okay, and but I think the key point this first time I heard and realized this is that because of Alderman Savage's stormwater legislation, we actually will be asking for some provisions if they make this into a gravel lot or what have you. So I think that's important for us, if it goes to environmental, for us to talk about, because we may be putting something back better than what's there now. So.
Alderman Savage next.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Alderman Tierney, I don't think this would kick in any of those stormwater requirements because it's so small.
Oh.
I think those requirements don't kick in unless you have 5,000 square feet or more. And so, but I do think it's also, we need to be cautious, but you could be right still if they're willing to build that, but I don't think we have a code that requires them to put in something that would treat more. Because they could theoretically put in permeable pavers and still make it into parking. But my last point is just that I think we need to be careful with saying that there's no possible city use. Because we don't know in the future. And I think in this case, if we were theoretically to go around the city and take like a small approach to stormwater, this could be a site where we put in a rain garden, we put in some other facility in partnership with those building owners to help reduce their stormwater credit. Right, so I don't think we want to be removing those possibilities from us in the future.
Could I just add one thing though, that if they are to use it for parking, wouldn't it be in our interest for them to buy spaces in the existing lot? Because that lot is underutilized. I'm assuming they want to use it for parking lots.
Yeah, the arrangements that's been worked out is that 2 of the existing spots in Larkin Garage or Larkin parking lot would have to be permanently rented by them to gain access to this lot.
Okay, so we get that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second on O-21-20. Alderman Gay, before we vote.
Yeah, I just have a question in regards. I just have a quick question in regards to what Ellie just said. So yeah, if they do want to turn this into a parking lot, I mean, as a city, wouldn't we want them to just maybe buy 2 lots or parking passes at the Hillman or the new garage? Why would we allow this? And why? I'm confused. Shouldn't we go like maybe like Rob said and turn it into like a small little stormwater area or something instead of?
That clearly is a policy decision that you all have with this legislation.
Thank you. Alderman Payon?
It's right next to each building. I mean, it's like not being able to use the driveway next to your house. It's right there. And I think it's always been used for parking anyway, whether anybody will admit to that or not. Maybe you ought to take a walk over there and walk behind the building. I might suggest that if you really feel the urge to do that. To me, it's city getting a little bit of cash for nothing.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. We're going to take a vote now. All those in favor say...
I just had a bid for $10,000 on the lot.
All those in favour say aye. We're on first reader. There's plenty of information to come. Raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, do we have a motion to adopt O-22-20 on first reader
So moved.
for
Okay.
59 square feet? Alderman Savage, do you have some comments?
Yeah, just wanted to refer to environmental matters, please.
Okay, got that, Regina. Thank you. Anyone else's hands up? Okay, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, same again. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Ellie, can I ask Ellie to resend the pictures? I can't find them.
I knew you were going to ask me that. I will.
I have one comment to make before we adjourn.
Sure.
On behalf of the Greater Parole Community Association, Alderman Gay, we accept your apologies. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll clarify, I apologized because when talking about ADUs, I should have said the Greater Parole Association and the Eastport Civic Association. My apologies.
Thank you.
Can't call one out the other.
I'm missing most of that.
Mr. Mayor, the agenda has been completed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I don't move for a postponement.
Can we do a good for the order? Good.
Yeah, before we vote out, anything for anyone else want to comment?
For the good of the order?
Yes.
Yes, I want to shout out to Tola and Gavin for being a DJ for this past Saturday. Wait, I have my shirt. You see my shirt?
All right. Nice.
Yeah. It was an all-day live stream of just all local talent, just some great music to raise money for a bunch of charities to help recovering addicts and all sorts of different efforts. And it was, I mean, Tola was in the City Hall conference room all day with his laptop, just orchestrating the whole thing. And I think that Will Rowell's his mission is to be a DJ.
Yes. Frustrated DJ. Yeah. Anything else for good order?
Yeah, let me just say I love y'all even though I get frustrated. I love y'all like family.
It's on video.
ECA says their love too.
Alderman Payone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Reggie, on me.
By the way, they were there at 4:30 when I came in on Saturday afternoon, so they were working hard.
Right.
At any rate, before anybody else can jump in, I move that we adjourn.
I think we also got to give a big thank you on that one to Julian and all the tech team that put that together and made it happen. No, Mitchell was part of it, so thank you everybody, and thank you City Council. All those in favour of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Right.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.